Hello and welcome to the Golden Trail World Series. You are looking at Sierre, the start line of Sierre-Zinal. 31 kilometers with 2,200 meters of climbing. And if you've been excited about the marathon this morning, it is just a taster to the main event today, Sierre-Zinal, because we have all of the big names in our sport coming here today to race, to find out finally who of our male and female runners will be the best across this course. My name is David Hellard. I'll be taking you through this journey, and what a journey it's going to be. But let's look at our overall standings. To remind you, the Golden Trail is 8 races with a final. It's 200 points in each race on offer. And not all of our runners have necessarily completed the 4 races that count towards their qualifying points. So at the moment, you can see here we have Rosa Lara leading our rankings. She has completed 4 races. Maud Mathis in second, who won't be, in fact, neither of our top 3 will be here today. But the significant names on that list were Sophia Lockley, Judith Wieder, Joyce Ngiro, and also Madalena Floria. And in our men's, it's a similar story. El Hussein leading the field with 4 races completed. He will not be here today. But looking down that leaderboard, Roberto Di Lorenzo, Daniel Pattis, Alain Santamaria, Patrick Kipingino will all be racing. But the 2 names not on that list, 3 names in fact, are Remy Bonnet from Switzerland, the local runner, Kilian Jornet, 9 times winner here, and Philemon Kiriago, last year's champion. They're all here, they're all in peak form, and they will be battling it out to find out who is going to win the 51st edition of Sierre-Zinal. Hopefully that has absolutely whet your appetite, because there are going to be some more mighty battles with some of the athletes we've already seen on screen there. Now, if you don't know about this race, it's 31 kilometers, but unlike a lot of the races in our season, this isn't a looped course. This is from A to B, starting in Sierre. You can see 26 degrees already, and that temperature is going to be a massive factor today. We're climbing 2,200 meters, but we don't actually descend that amount, because now our finish line is at 1,680 meters. But we're going to our start here. It's a very unusual start. It's actually on the side of a motorway, which is quite hard for the athletes. They have to drive out an hour drive from Zinal to get there, and then warm up on the side of this main road before they then start the race. We will be going live in 10 minutes, and you can see some of the buses still delivering some of the runners. These are the 8 races we've had so far, the 8 races in our series, with a final in Switzerland. This is stage number 5 of our, stage number 5 of our 8 races, but this is the course. And as you can see, it very quickly does the climbing from the start. It takes you straight into the mountains, tucked away in the trees. And it's not until they come out at the 2,000 meter mark at Chandlin they get an opportunity to really start putting the pace in. So 11 kilometers in is where they finish their significant climb, but there's still a lot of trail left of the race course. And as you can see, that finish line is nowhere near as low as the race starts. There's approximately half of the descent in this race is with the climbing. So when you look at this race, when you look at our favorites, people like Judith Wieder aren't going to be able to use her deadly descending speed quite as aggressively as they are in other races. But we're coming to our sideline here, and the men and the women actually start this race together. So you can see some of our favorites there. There's Bogdan Damian Leonard from Romania on the front line. Our favorites seem to be tucked in behind. They will have a very fast start with a little bit of running on the road before we then very quickly go into single track. And so we expect to be mainly following the men for the first 10-15 minutes before the camera runners can then actually intersperse amongst the rest of the athletes to be able to update you on what the race is happening in our females. But today we will be going through all of the race favorites, what we predict the strategy will need to be for them to win. And if we look at our list of previous winners, we've already mentioned that Maud sadly isn't here, she's injured. Sophia Lockley, though, is racing, as are Philemon Kiriago and Kylian Jornet. He's got 3 wins on this picture, but he's got 9 wins in the bag. Significantly about this race, though, you can see Andrew Blanes there, another Spanish runner. He is known as a track runner, a road runner, and this is a race, the only race in our season really where you can take someone who's not necessarily as skilled at trail and they stand a chance of winning here. Also significant about Andrew Blanes, when he came out at Planchette, he was in 20th position. There aren't many other races where you can be that far behind and still stand a chance of winning. But because the race is so fast across the top and so many runners blow themselves up on that first climb, we're not going to know until around the 20k mark, Hotel Vison, where the real battle begins, who actually is likely to be a favourite here. But they are now introducing that it's Christian Allen, his first Golden Trail World Series event, an American runner. He's been doing extremely well on the national circuit. Broken Arrow this year did very well, and it's his first time coming over to Europe. He's come over with his family of 3. This is Joyce Najiru. She's won 1 race already this season, winning the Four Sisters Mountain Trail race in China. Incredibly fast athletes across the top today. Probably won't be starting quite as aggressively. And a Brooks runner, Daniel Pattis from Italy, very close to here. He will fancy his chances. He's progressing to the kind of 30k mark at the moment. It'll still be a long race for him, and a very long race for Anna Gibson. She's just finished her track season. This is her first race of the season in trail. So she's come from 1,500 meters. So this is going to be an extremely challenging time for her today. Robbie Simpson from the UK. He's finished second here 4 times. A very, very experienced runner on this trail. He'll be one to look out for in the latter stage as well. He's been top 10 before and run all the way through to top 3 across the top. Caitlin Fielder from New Zealand. She will be finding it tough today, I think. She's more of a strong descender. This will be a very long race for her. And for me, one of the favourites, Patrick Kipengeno. He's won twice already this season. He was leading last year before he twisted his ankle on a stone. It wouldn't surprise me if he's leading out. And third overall in our series, Therese Leboeuf, a Swiss runner, very good at this distance, very good all-round athlete. I'd expect her to be in the top 5 today. For Stéphane Cachat, former European off-road champion. He's come 4th here last year. He has had a bit of a foot issue coming into today, so I don't know if he'll be necessarily at that level, but is a very, very good mountain runner. Will be extremely fast across the top, and last year was another runner who came from significantly further down to claim that 4th place. Then Roberto De Lorenzi, last year's Sky Running World Champion. He struggled to produce the form as European champion, produced that form in the Golden Trail, but actually had a fantastic race in Zagama. He was very pleased. And another favourite for me, Madalena Faria. She announced herself last season, leading this race until the 20k mark, and since then has shown that she's back in final winning form. Last year's winner, Philemon Cariago, he's in a strong form at the moment himself, coming fourth in China. I personally don't think he'll be top three today, but will certainly be in amongst the mix. And Sophia Lockley, last year's series winner, last year's Sierre-Zinal champion, and according to sources, she is back in the form of last year. And Remy Bonnet, of all the field, wants to win this more than anyone else. Defending champion of the Golden Trail Series, he's won that 2 years in a row, but significantly has never won, never even podium as Sierre-Zinal, the race he wants to win above all others. We expect him to be in the mix today. And Kylian Jornet, the greatest of all time, without doubt. 11 times winner of the Gamma, 9 times winner of Sierre-Zinal, course record holder. We will be talking about him greatly today. And Judith Weider, winner of the Mont Blanc Marathon, the first time she's ever won a marathon. She's come second here before. She has the third fastest ever time and is also a strong favourite. I suspect she won't be up in the lead group to start with, but she has by far the strongest finishing closing speed. The question will be whether she can hold on to the lead group and whether the descent is long enough for her to be using that speed and catching back. But she is the athlete they'll be fearing, and they will potentially be blowing their races up to ensure that they can get enough of a lead over her. But you can see Kylian already sweating, 26 degrees. He said in the press conference when we asked him whether he thought the record was on, that the heat was going to be the major factor, because he's been looking at his own training and the other top 4 athletes, and he thinks all of them are in the form to be able to beat his course record if they can withhold the heat. But we're looking at the trail here, and you can see this is single track climbing. It doesn't look steep here, but this is incredibly steep. They're going to be doing 1,500 meters of climbing to get to Chandelin. 1,500 meter climb in the first 10 kilometers. It is brutal. And I suspect we're going to see a bit of a battle between Patrick, the world VK champion, and Remy Bonnet, known as the best uphill runner on earth. But actually, if you look at the previous splits of this race, Kylian still has the fastest climb. So those three will be battling it out. I suspect Philemon will be sat just behind, happy for them to use their energy early in the race, knowing that he's a faster descender, a fast runner, hoping to catch them up later on. In the women's, we're actually going to see some athletes that haven't featured in our top 10, I believe, will be leading out this. We have Philaris from Kenya, who came 4th last year. She was leading out this race. She's a very good ascender, a very good climber. But we actually have a new runner from Run Together who is unknown to the rest of our runners, called Jolene. This is her first ever trail race, but according to her coach, we're counting down to the start of Sierre-Zinal. And we're off. It's the beginning of Sierre-Zinal, the oldest trail race in Europe. Its 51st year in what I believe is by far the most competitive field this race has ever seen. We've seen runners of this caliber come before, but I don't think they have been in the fitness they have been in today. Our top 4 male and female runners are all ready to absolutely blitz this course. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're well under the course record in the first third before that heat kicks in. But that is going to be their main challenge today. Pacing themselves to the finish line, but actually ensuring they're taking on enough nutrition in this first third so that by the time they get to the second half, when they hit that sunshine, they have enough water in their system and they're not going to dehydrate. But let's look at this climb. One of the factors that is really challenging for our females is this is a very narrow course. You can see a bit of road here. It very quickly turns off to the left into single track. And if you're stuck behind a group of runners here, it can be very challenging to actually get free. And so some of our female runners may need to be quite tactical and actually running slightly ahead of pace just to ensure that they get a bit of a free run up this climb. Now we're seeing at the front there in the white and the yellow, that is the team Run Together from Kenya. That will probably be Philemon. I can't quite tell if it's Philemon or Patrick, the two runners likely to be at the head. And just off the back of them, you could see Remy Bonnet and Kylian Jornet already in our lead pack. That lead pack of 4 is exactly who we expect to be together for at least the first third of this climb. But you can see our pack of, there's actually 5 at the front. Just trying to figure out who that 5th person is who is foolish enough to run with them. Quite often we do get some, in previous years, we have had some marathon runners come and chance their, roll the dice at seeing how they can perform here. But a lot of those runners have been cleaned out by the Olympics, who've very graciously have moved forward the start of the marathon to ensure that you are all able to watch the main event, Sierre-Zinal here. But as you can see, we've got this first, we're starting at 570 meters, the major climb. Sierra is actually 500 meters. And the finish is now 1,600 meters. So altitude will be a factor today. It's really at 3,000 meters that altitude really starts to bite. But even having gone for runs and spoken to the athletes who are based in Zinal, you do notice that the level of oxygen in the air is different. And so they'll climb up to 2,387 meters at Hotel Weisshorn. That's the peak of our race. And if you're not used to that, if you're based at sea level, that will be significant on you. You'll be able to still run through it, but you're going to have to slow down a slight bit. But as we can see, the first 8K take us up to Ponchette, 1,870 meters in height. So they'd have climbed 1,300 meters in that first 7K. They then continue their climbing to their high point. 20K mark is Hotel Weisshorn. And they'll then descend to 1,600 meters and 80 to Zinal. But you can see our first group pulling away already. And amongst that group, the question will be who wants to lead out this race and who is going to use their cards early. One of the challenges we've seen in previous years, and this looks like we're tucked behind Kylian already. This will surprise the other runners. Kylian said in the press conference yesterday, are you going to take it out hard? And do you think the course record is on here? He's often sheepish about committing to times, about saying to whether the course record for him personally is actually at risk. But he has said in Zagama press conference, and he said also to us at the press conference yesterday that he is in the form of his life. He knows his stats extremely well, and his training has been uninterrupted. And so he knows actually he is coming to this potentially in better shape when he set the record in 2019. The course record is 2 hours 25. And for our other runners, the challenge for them is that people like Remy Bonnet know that the real challenge to try and beat Kylian is by breaking him on the climb, because that is where Remy is the master. So the fact that Kylian is already at the front now will be quite worrying. Patrick Imagino, and Philemon Carriego, that they're not quite aware of the history of this race. They've not been in battles with Kilian before, other than when Kilian raced here 2 years ago and he had COVID, where he still finished top 10, but really wasn't the Kilian that we were expecting. So they're not quite, having spoken to them and with Philemon giving a little bit away at the press conference, they weren't basing their strategy quite as much around Kilian. Theirs was more thinking about Remy. But already the fact that we can see here, it's Philemon on the left, number 2, Patrick in number 14 on the right here. The fact that Remy is not on screen is quite surprising. And that Kilian is already put... Oh, there's Remy. Okay. So Remy from Switzerland in the white here at the back. The three of them working together. And we've looked at the splits of their previous bests on this course. Significantly, when they hit Ponchette, which is the 7K mark, when Kilian broke the record in, 2:25, his time through there was 47 minutes 10. Patrick was 48.59 and Philemon was 49.33. So even last year when Patrick was leading and the overall finish time was the second fastest ever finish time here, they were already 2 minutes down on Kilian's pace. So while we talk about, and we can see there, that's Roberto De Lorenzi going through, and Christian Allen also, and I believe that was Ezekiel from Team Run Together going through as well. So Roberto De Lorenzo and Christian Allen looking good at this stage. And Daniel Pattis in the reds there of Team Brooks for Italy. He's known as a conservative starter, so no surprises that he's slightly further down the field. But as you can see, it's single track at this stage. It's very hard to overtake. And the reason why the cameraman is waiting here is because he's waiting to pick up our first female athlete so we can then bring you updates on what's happening in the women's field. We will be bringing you splits throughout the race where we'll be able to update you on the top 10. But that looks like, that is fact, is Joyce DeGiroux in the green, you can see there. Joyce was our winner in the Four Sisters Mountain Race. And in fact, this is Joylene ahead of Joyce. This is a surprise. Joylene, this is her very first trail race. She has literally done no races in Kenya or out of Kenya, which may sound unbelievable, but we've been talking to her coach, Julien, and he said he is absolutely the one to watch. She is from the Milimani runners, and the reason why she's predicted to do so well here is, so this is Joylene Cepangino. When she was at school, she used to run cross-country and run track, and she was extremely good. She's had 2 children since. Her children, I believe, are 5 and 7 years old. And during that time, she completely gave up running. She put on a lot of weight. And then she saw some of the athletes that she used to beat at school traveling around the world, winning competitions, bringing money back home for their village, and kudos. And she questioned why she wasn't doing it herself. Since then, she's lost 30 kilograms of weight to turn herself back into the athlete she was. And significantly, her coach has said that compared to Philaris, who we will be seeing up in this league group as well, that her statistics on the climb, and that's Bogdan Damian and Madalina Floria from Romania, sat in. Looks like she's in 3rd place at the moment. A very good climber as well. She announced herself on the global trails scene last year, leading out this race all the way up until the 20K mark. So significant that she is up in 3rd place at the moment. We were wondering whether Sophia Lockley, a very good climber, would be in amongst it at this stage. They were both expecting for Philorese, actually, and for Jolene, if they're aware of her presence, to be leading out. I'm quite surprised that Joyce is ahead of them. Joyce isn't as good a climber. She's a very good downhill runner, and we've got the details here. Madalena is third overall in the rankings last year. She's only run once so far this year, which is why she's in fourth place. But she came seventh last year, but she came significantly second in the Mont Blanc Marathon, the first time she's really raced aggressively at that distance. And you can see runner 222 on screen here. She isn't someone we're expecting to be up in this league group. We're just going to quickly find out exactly who that is. But clearly a very good climber as well. As the race thins, we're going to be able to get more of a picture on exactly where our ladies are in this field as they start to overtake the men who often go off a little bit too aggressively. But this is Scott Adkin, and in fact, we were discussing it yesterday. She is an extremely good trail runner, Scott. She is. She did very well in the European Championships, and one of the questions about her racing today, we were wondering, was whether or not she her performance in the Europeans was because it was so wet. But you can see this is Philorese here in 2:15 in the yellow. It's Scott slightly further ahead. Scout Adkin. And in between them, I believe, is Joyce Najiru there, sat in between our three athletes. Big questions are, where is Sophia Lockley? We know from her pre-training before the season, she did pick up a bit of an injury, trying to return to the sport quickly after her cross-country skiing. And has struggled at Mont Blanc Marathon, not having the legs in her. Too early, really, to be running a marathon at this stage. But according to her kind of training stats, she was expected to be up amongst this group, particularly as she is a very, very strong climber. But we were expecting her to be up in the group. But quite surprising to see Scout and Madalena up with our two Kenyan runners at this stage, because they're known to be better climbers. But this is what's great about this race. Some of our athletes will be committing too much so early on in this heat and with the climb. And it's not until they come out into the sunshine at the top that they really get to understand how much they have left in their legs, because that's when the altitude and the heat really hits them. But talking about our female racers, we're yet to see also one of the other favourites, Judith Wieder. This is quite a long race for her. She's a Swiss runner, but she's from the German side, so actually this isn't quite as significant a race to her as it is to Maud Mathis. But we do know Judith has gone out with a pace that she thinks she can sustain, intent on trying to track down our runners through the rest of the course and use her lethal downhill pace to try and pick up places towards the end of the race, hoping that some of the runners will fall away. But just talking about Scout Atkin, she is a very good British runner. In terms of her performances, she came second at the European off-roads uphill race. So a very, very good climber. And we're now back with the leader of the men's field, Kilian Jornet. Now, Kilian has said that he won't just go out for this record. He will be pacing today with the awareness of the heat. And he said even though he'll be racing as hard as he can, there will be a little bit of a buffer in that pace because he knows just how much the temperature can play a part in this race. 2 years ago, we saw very, very similar conditions, and it really blew apart the field. And even last year, we did see runners like Madalena Florea really struggle in the heats. And if you're coming into this anything less than 100%, as Remy Bonnet was last year, it really does take it out on you. But significantly for Kilian, when he's talked about the differences between now and when he was purely an athlete, he's since stepped back to run his company and normal. He said that actually, because of the amount of work he has to do with that job, but also because he's not focusing quite as much on racing as much as he did previously, he's actually cut back a little bit on his training, and family life also being another massive factor. And so he's not doing as much mileage in his training as he has in previous years, but he actually thinks that that's helped him. And he's been more focused on the quality of his training and actually going into those sessions less tired. And it's allowed him to actually really focus on and really think about analysing what is important in his training schedule. And so he said before Zegama that actually he felt he was the fittest he's ever been at any point in his career. So when we think back to his race where he broke the course record, set 2:25, he says he's in better condition now than he was then, which if you're one of the other athletes, knowing that he's already won here 9 times, that is scary. Now, this looks to me to be Julia Font. I think we're following here, just trying to get confirmation of exactly who that is. But we have runner 265 just ahead of them. We're just going back to our live rankings to confirm exactly who that is. In fact, that does look like Julia Font there on our left. Julia, just going to confirm that exactly. But this is not. I'm not sure this is the head of our race. It says it's the head of our race on our screen. I don't think that's true. I think we already saw going ahead of us. We had Joylene from our Kenyan runner was at the lead of our race, but I'm not sure if they've unless there's been an overtake that we haven't caught on camera. I'd be cautious about confirming that is the front of our race. Now, something else that Kilian was been saying that has almost helped his prioritising of races is that a lot of his motivations have changed. Previously he was, and look at those stats, 945 in his ITRA ranking. The highest scores he's ever had, kind of Western States UTMB. Interestingly, Remy has the highest ever ITRA score. But he's 23rd in our ranking, but ignore all of that. That's based purely on his results at winning Zegama 2 races ago. And they're still saying this is our race leader, so we're just trying to get absolute confirmation from the course. That's, I think, Scout Aiken ahead. And a newer runner we're just getting confirmation on here. But I don't think this is necessarily the front of our women's race. But notable, they're already dropping our camera runner. This is how good they are. And we can, this is definitely not going to be the front of our race. There are too many athletes I don't recognise in this pack. But, fair play to our camera runners. We will have some catch up with them later to find out exactly who the story of some of our runners, to explain who we have chosen to ensure they can keep up. But they've already had to run with Kilian, and then they've dropped back and are now having to keep up with our female runners as well. It's not an easy job. So we're just waiting to find absolute confirmation when they come through the checkpoint of who is leading out our race. But we're back here with just waiting on confirmation of that. That doesn't, to me, look like Joseph Kipra. That looks like Patrick's running style. I believe that is Patrick Kipagino, who is running there just off the back of Remy Bonnet. So I believe that is our second and third place men. We can ignore the screen there. As predicted, Philemon has dropped back a little bit. He is not quite as an aggressive or as a strong a climber. So what we're seeing on screen here, this is actually Patrick Kipagino we're seeing in second place. But we're now going to find out a little bit more.
Le plus gros défi pour nous, c'est de tenir le rythme et à la fois effectivement de proposer des belles images, donc de cadrer. Puis une fois qu'on est pris dans la descente avec le coureur, en fait tout se met en place assez naturellement. C'est une habitude à prendre, il faut un petit peu décrocher le cerveau, c'est pas évident. Je suis Fleury Roux, je suis caméra runner sur les Golden Trail World Series et sur le marathon du Mont Blanc. Je fais de la course d'orientation, j'en ai fait plusieurs années en équipe de France à haut niveau. Je pense que ça,
for the non-French speakers, as seen on screen, this is Fleury Roux, one of our camera runners, extremely fast camera runner, who's actually dating the world trail champion. He is a national orienteering team member for Team France, so he's extremely fast. But as you can see, this is the camera equipment he has to carry his back as he's running. And the reason why we've chosen orienteers is because they need to be fast enough as runners to be able to keep up with our elite males and females. But one of the real challenges is while they're running, they need to be able to keep the camera on the runner while also being able to run down some technical terrain, which is something that orienteers practice time and time when they're racing. And so we typically choose orienteers knowing that they'll be able to run over rough terrain without having to look at the floor.
Donc on s'échauffe, on fait des accélérations et puis dès que c'est parti, après c'est comme en course, la pression elle redescend et puis après on a juste à essayer de suivre le plus longtemps possible. Allez, mon cache-t'es bien là.
And this is Roberto Di Lorenzo on the screen to our left, yeah, and Sylvain Cachard there, and also Alex Garcia, team running from Spain as well. So this looks to be probably top 5 through to 5, 6, 7, 8 approximately in the rankings, although potentially Ezekiel will be ahead of them, another Kenyan runner. So we're now strapped in but behind our hunting group. They'll be happy to maintain that pace up this mountain, and we've already mentioned Sylvain, who came 4th last year, but running for Team Brooks there was Roberto Di Lorenzo. He has a sub 38 10 kilometer time. Sorry, sub 28 10 kilometer time. He's an extremely fast finisher. He actually won the European Off-Road Championships this year, and they will be quite content just trying to survive this climb, knowing that actually it's the second half of the race where they'll be able to put their speed into really use that to try and catch up with the front group. But given who's ahead of them, they'll be hoping that someone's got it slightly wrong and will be forced to slow down, because otherwise the runners ahead are quicker on the flat as well. But we're now looking back on, is this Cesare Maestri? He's the multiple-time world snow... Oh, no, it's not, in fact. It's runner number 15. This is Candide Prolong from Switzerland, a local runner, not actually run in the Golden Trail that much before. And this is what's great about Sierre-Zinal. We often see a lot of orienteers and local runners come and just test themselves against the best trail runners in the world. And number 108, and another new runner to the Golden Trail. This is Julius Ott from Germany. Julius Ott from Germany. running for HPC TriMaster. So well done, Julius. You are in amongst the world elites at the moment. But often with these races, I'd be surprised if these runners are up there by the end of the race. And if they are, fair play. You will be invited to join us in the Golden Trail World Series. So if you finish top 10 today, you're then invited, all expenses paid, to join the rest of the series, and that's exactly what happened with Madalena Fruia. But that might be Robbie Simpson there in the white hat, of Adidas. He is a very experienced British runner. He's come second 4 times before. I mean, this is a race he loves, but also he hates. But we are currently looking at the Pierre de Metrier or Mordestin. This is a stone surrounded by legends. This was actually moved here in 2010 from when they constructed the A9 motorway at a cost of 800,000 francs. That's around $1 million. Weighs 1,500 tons. I believe that's hopefully what we're looking at according to my notes, if they've played as the right thing. Quite a story behind it, but either way, fantastic views we're seeing up here, and you can see the climbing they're having to do now. But this is the chase group on the right, and I believe that was Robbie Simpson who was on our screen. Both Cesare and Robbie have come from outside the top 10 before to finish in the top 3. Cesare was third 3 years ago. Robbie Simpson, as we mentioned, has come second here before. He actually led this race with 400 meters to go. And Francesco Pupi, a fantastic Nike runner, Italian runner. I didn't know he was here today, so lovely to see him. He's got a 2:16 marathon time, an extremely fast runner. He will be he'll be hoping to put that speed into play today. He's come second in the World Trail Championships, a very, very good runner. He's a runner as well who's a bit like Rebby, where he knows that this race should suit him. It's where road meets trail, but for some reason he's never managed to quite pull it together. And the fact he's where he is now, I'd say he's a little bit too far back to be challenging for top 5, given the quality of the runners ahead of him. And this is what's been amazing about the Golden Trail World Series and about Sierre-Zinal. While the times have progressed steadily, the times of the top 10 have been significantly jumping. And so that the top 10 today is by far the highest top 10 in terms of ITRA points that we've ever seen. If you don't know what the ITRA points are, ITRA is... the way ITRA works is they look at all the races around the world, all the trail races, and they take into account the conditions, the level of the field, and then the finish times to actually try and give an independent score of how well someone has competed, an objective score of how well someone has performed on that race course on that day. To, in theory, allow us to rank all of the performances in history. And the 3 individuals with the highest ever ITRA scores are all running today. We've already talked about them: Kylian Jornet, Remy Bonnet, and Patrick Kipangino. But it looks like it's one man who is leading out the charge today. And we are watching our race leader, Kylian Jornet. If you don't know who Kylian is, there are many, many videos on YouTube you can watch about, but he is without doubt the greatest of all time. He's an individual who can win races at 10K and still win ultras like UTMB. He's won the most UTMBs of any individual. He's won Western States. What hasn't he won, basically? And this is what's so significant about him as an individual. There are many other runners who have who can claim to be great 100-mile runners, but what is incredible about Kilian is that within the same season, he can dip into races of 31 kilometers and win, and still have the legs and endurance to go and win things like UTMB and Western States. In terms of the shorter runs that have the highest ITRA score, his highest ITRA score in shorter distances has been at Zagama. But we're going to find out when he comes through Beauregard where he is in relation to his previous times. Just trying to look at his split coming through there. In fact, we've already missed Beauregard. That would have been 20 minutes in. But we should find a Ponchette how he's tracking against previous years. That's in 16 minutes. So Ponchette is our 7K mark. By then, they would have done 1,300 meters of climbing. When he set the record back in 2019, his time of 2:25, he came through in 47 minutes. But you can see we're already well through Beauregard. I think when the men came through there, we were watching the ladies. So apologies for not getting an update there. There isn't a chip timer at that stage. I actually went back on his Strava and just clocked the individual times that him and Maud came through when they set the record to try and get a sense of how they were tracking. But we can see there, you know, when we last saw him on screen, there was significant distance between him and Patrick and Remy. And this is very worrying. We do know from when we've looked at Remy's performances previously, you know, Remy has the highest ever ITRA score for a substantially uphill race in Switzerland. But one of the challenges for Remy, in his early career, he won races like Zagama when he was extremely young, and then struggled with trying to become an all-round athlete and struggled with injuries. And for a while was content to be known as the best uphill runner in the world. But these last 3 seasons, he'd really refocused his training and tried to ensure just trying to pick up what the cameramen are saying there. Often they can give us a few little clues as to where everyone else is and how they're feeling. This is the breathing of the camera runner, by the way. It's not the breathing of Kilian. I think he'll be rather more relaxed at this stage. But one of the training sessions that both Remy and Kilian have done previously coming into Sierre-Zinal is something called the VK 10K. This is something that Kilian crafted for himself, where he went out and ran a VK as quickly as he could. Just trying to figure out who that runner is. It's not one of our leading pack. This is certainly one of the chasing pack here. Potentially that's Ezekiel there in the yellow on the left of our screen. And this... and there's Nicholas from America coming through. So I don't think that is our chasing pack. That is not our chasing pack based off our runners. Our chasing pack is runners like Roberta De Lorenzi, and but I think this is our second place female. Our camera runner, I believe, when we saw the run together athlete passes, she does have quite short hair. I think that's Jolene is ahead of Scout Aitken. So while they're saying this is our first runner, I don't think that is the case. I'm just going to try and catch a glimpse on this switchback. But when we next go to our switchback, try and look to the left of our screen to see a white and green top, and just see if that is Jolene. Because while I believe the cameramen think this is our first runner, I'm not as convinced. But wow, Scout Aitken leading out the field. An absolutely incredible performance from her so far. As we mentioned, she came second in the uphill in the European Off-Road Trail Running Championships. She's known to be very good on British terrain, shall we say, in terms of her previous performances. I mean, she's won the VK in Montemuro in Portugal before. She's won the VK at races like Monte de Nid Dangly, 90-kilometer race. Sorry, that was a 90-kilometer race in France. You know, she has a very good pedigree, but she's not raced many races 31k or above. And so potentially, while she's going out looking extremely comfortable, given the distance of this race, I'd be surprised if she's going to be able to maintain this performance, because when the way we can tell how where people's specialities are is often when they go to the World Championships, they then choose the distances they want to race. And if we look back to the World Champs in Austria, she was running the 14k classic and the 7k vertical race. She didn't go for the 40k. And when she was at the Europe and similarly at the World Champs in Thailand before, where she came 5th in the kind of classic up down, it was the 11k again. So this whilst we know she's a very strong climber, this is going to be a very long race for her. None of the races that she's achieved significantly well in have been at this distance. So while I do applaud the fact that we have a British runner, come on Scout, in the lead field, I believe in second place, not first. I do worry whether she's gone out a bit too hard. But this now looks to be our second place man. This is Patrick. That is a very familiar running style. It wouldn't surprise me if Remy is... This is not Josephat Jiprachik. This is Patrick Kipagino. He is... while he's not leading our race series because he's only been in 2 races so far, he has won the opening 2 races of the Golden Trail World Series. So actually, for me, he is sat in the strongest position of anyone at this stage for our overall series. And as confirmed on screen there, runner 222 that we have on screen is Scout Aitken from Team Hoka in the UK. But we're back with Patrick Kipagino, not Josephat. This is Patrick Kipagino. He is the world champion VK, vertical kilometer champion. And what that means is the VK, if you're not used to that race, typically it tends to be over kind of 3 kilometers of distance. You climb 1,000 meters. It's extremely hard. It's extremely steep. And he is the reigning world champion. But significantly, we say Kilian's the GOAT of all time, the greatest of all time. He's behind Kilian. So it just gives you an idea of quite how good Kilian Jornet is. But in terms of overall records, we've mentioned Remy Bonnet and ITRA scores and how actually he has the highest ever ITRA score. Remy Bonnet significantly wasn't at the World Championships. He was focusing more on the Golden Trail. But his best ever ITRA score, it used to be held by Matt Carpenter at Pikes Peak, which was 968 out of 1,000. 1,000 is the most perfect race. And that score had been the highest rank ever since 1993. Then Jim Walmsley came close with his Western States records, getting 966. But Remy Bonnet then broke the records. In fact, here is... No, that's not Remy there. This is our chasing group now. We're just getting confirmation of who is in this group. Please raise your camera a little bit, cameraman. Quite a tight pack of chasing group there. They will be some distance behind, though. Some distance behind. And this is Madalena Floria, possibly in second or third place, we believe. Second or third place. but we're waiting for our first splits, which we will get at the 7-kilometer mark. At Ponchet is where we will get our absolute confirmation. And this is Madalena Florea. Monica is her middle name, Madalena Florea. So we're just getting a few updates. But what we're seeing now on the left-hand side, this is the Chapelle Sainte-Anne, built between 1951 and 1952. It has a Baroque altar dating back to 1753, installed, coming from the former chapel of Ayer. The project took 30 years to come through to fruition, with frescoes on the exterior by the Siroise artist painter Cini. They depict Saint Anne and Christ, as well as the aerial landscape of the valley. Cini also created 4 stained glass windows at the monument, with the inauguration in April 1953 marked the religious ceremonies and a popular celebration with a large Fallacian raclette. Delicious, I have no doubts about. Grab some raclette if you can in celebration of this wonderful, wonderful chapel. And we're watching our third place lady on the right of the screen, Madalena Florea from Romania. She'll be aware that she's not leading at this stage, and I don't think she'll be too upset to be in that position because and now they're now saying second man. This is Remy Benet on screen, so potentially he has overtaken. This is definitely not Josephat. He has potentially overtaken Patrick Kipangina, or maybe he's been ahead of Patrick this whole time and we've not been aware of it. So we're just trying to get confirmation, and we'll know the confirmations when they come through Ponchet at the 7K mark, 49 minutes. This is Joyce Nijiru, who we believe is third or fourth women, depending on whether Jolene is ahead, and we're not aware of this. Joyce, she'll be happy where she's sat. She doesn't back herself as a stronger climber. She's extremely fast across the top and an extremely strong finisher. This isn't Madalena Florea. This is Joyce Nijiru from Team Run Together. She won her first Golden Trail race this year, leading out from the start the Four Sisters Mountain Trail. That was at a ridiculous level of altitude, over 5,000 meters. And so one of the questions about Joyce's performance at that race was whether it's because coming through Kenya, training at altitude, whether the advantage that had given over the other runners was why she'd managed to blow that field wide open, or whether actually this season she was a far better athlete than previous years. Last year, she came second in Sierre-Zinal, but she was 4 minutes back off the race winner, Sophia Lockley. And so, quite a different level of athlete. We asked her in the press conference yesterday. In fact, I asked a direct question. Last year, you were 4 minutes behind the winner. Are you 4 minutes faster this year? And she said, with no pause, yes, I am. She mentioned how she'd realized that to train well, and that is that Madalena just ahead of her there. We can see in the red backpack with the white arms, that's Madalena Florea. The fact they're both within sight will be very, very comforting to Joyce. Based on what she said, she'd been expecting to be further behind, and you can see the differing styles. So great performance from her so far. Hello, we are here at Sierre-Zinal, the 51st year of the oldest trail race in Europe, the absolute granddaddy. And as you can see, our athletes are in thick, thick forests right now. But you can see the weather outside. It was 26 degrees when we started. And look at the temperature. starting at 11 o'clock in the morning gives some difficulties to these athletes. You can see Kilian already sweating. But from the start, look at that lead that Kilian had created. The greatest of all time, 11 times winner. But the real surprise in this race, in the men's, the real surprise was that Kilian took it out so hard and created such a lead over our chasing runners. And in the females, Scout Aiking, the English runner known for her climbing, was ahead of all of our favorite females today and is still actually at the front of this race. So at the moment we can see they've passed Beauregard. They're coming up to the 7K mark soon, and this is Scout Aitken we can see there in 2:22, the British runner who came second in the vertical kilometers of the European Championships early this year. Showing extreme confidence on this course, but there are some question marks about whether she has the experience or even the endurance to be able to last out this race. And we are now tucked in behind here, behind Philorese, we are seeing. She is one of the runners from Run Together who we expected actually to be using her climbing pace. Philorese Kisang, as you can see. She was in third place overall last year before she was overtaken by her compatriot, Joyce, at around the 25K mark. I was speaking to Philorese yesterday, and she said that last year she realized she attacked too aggressively on this first hill. And significantly today, she's actually further back than I thought she would be. But Kilian's joining now. Wow. This means he's popped out at the top of our trees. He's going to be coming out to Ponchet extremely shortly, and in fact I think he's probably come through Ponchet already. So as you can see on screen, his time at Ponchet was 47:10. We're going to get the splits quite soon to find out whether indeed he is under course record time. We will be getting an update on our full top 10 rankings, men and women. But Kilian has made light work, and in fact he's come through already 47:48 through. So he is 38 seconds down on his own course record. So the heat clearly is taking its toll already. He did say that he would be taking it easy. I believe they've got the chip timings wrong here, unless this potentially is. This doesn't look like Patrick's running style to me. Wow. So this is Josfat Kiprotich from Team Run Together, who is now taking the lead against Kilian Jornet. And none of us were expecting this. Even talking to the to Thomas from Team Run Together, Josfat has run with Philemon when they were younger. They know each other extremely well, but even their coach didn't think that he would be challenging at this stage. To put this into context, Josfat is ahead of the vertical climbing world champion, Remy Bonnet, who is known to have the highest ever ITRA score for his climbing, and the greatest of all-time runner, course record holder on this course, Kilian Jornet. What a performance from him. We're going to do a little bit of research on Josfat, because our throughout this course, they've been trying to tell us something by popping his name up against Patrick and anyone else they could, to just say, research this guy, because he's never raced Sierre-Zinal before. Is a complete unknown. So we at this stage don't know, but Kilian's taking back this lead. Interesting. This will be something that will play in Kilian's head. He knows Patrick. He knows Philemon. And Kilian is a master tactician, and will always play a little bit with his opposition and try and test them and try and figure out what is the best way to ensure he can win this. The good thing for Kilian, though, is that Kilian, and he's looking back. he's clearly trying to get a read on what's happening, maybe trying to let the cyclist go past. But Kilian has a devastating downhill closing speed. So at least Kilian knows worst comes to the worst, he'll be able to pick up places there. And actually, it was when Kilian had COVID and he finished outside the top 5, he overtook SALOMON on that downhill and caused him to fall over. The shock of Kilian's speed passing him distracted him that much. But Sylvain Cachard is up amongst it, which, again, is very surprising. He is leading out our chase group, as we can see. Sylvain Cachard has he's had a stress fracture in his foot following the European Championships. So I spoke to him yesterday, and he said he thought he'd be taking it easy, which, if you look at his time now and where he is in this field, he is significantly further ahead than he was last year. And last year, he finished 4th place, having stormed the second half. So it shows a lot of our runners are changing their strategy, and that looks like, I think that was Christian Allen, our American runner, also having a great race inside the top 10. So, wow! The form book is being challenged today. But as you can see, we are at Ponchette. This is the 7K mark. They've already done 1,300 meters of climbing. For most people, that's enough climbing for the day. Just to put it into context, everyone was talking about the marathon at the Olympics and how significant the climbing was in there. They ran 400 meters. Our runners in the first 7 kilometers have already run 1,300 meters, already 3 times more than our marathon runners in a sixth of the distance. But that's not the end of their climbing. They've got another 500 meters of climbing still to go to get to Herto Weisshorn. Navarra, 2,400 meters. They've still got 600 meters of climbing. And this is one of the challenges in this race. You come out at Ponchette, you're out of the woods, you look around, there's the beautiful sight. It feels like now is the time that you should be running. And because you're used to such a steep climb and your body has been in a position that is very different to this free flow running they're doing now, it can be quite a trap. You hit the sunshine, you feel great, and this is when you feel like you should be running fluidly. And a lot of our runners start to attack, but actually there's still quite a lot of climbing to go. And this can be really, really challenging, where you burn up your glycogen stores and you hit the peak where you want to be attacking the down. And we've seen it time and time again, where a lot of athletes have really struggled if they've not taken on nutrition early in the race, or indeed if they've just run too fast. The faster you run, the higher the percentage of glycogen you use for your muscles. And that is really difficult when you're running a race that's going to be 2.5 hours. Now, this, again, looks like, this is now Josephat, our race leader, with Kilian Jornet off his shoulder. We're doing a little bit of research about Josephat. Often what happens with runners from Run Together, they haven't done a lot of international running when they come and join the Golden Trail. And so when we're trying to find details on their previous performances, a lot of their previous performances would have been local races that, unless the local news agency have actually reported on the results, they're not in our international rankings. So we will bring you an update shortly on what exactly his history is. But as we said earlier, Kilian is one of the most deadly descenders in our sport. And so he won't be too rattled by the presence of a runner he doesn't know, because he knows when it comes to the end of running down from Barnusa, the 2,210 meter point, they've basically got about 600 meters of aggressive descending, where he'll really be able to then pull away from runners who haven't necessarily got quite as much experience of how to save their legs and how to run on some quite technical trail. And even looking down my start list, I can't find any details on Josephat. He was born in 1993, so he's not a newer runner. He's 31 years old. And we're here with Scout Aitken, probably our race leader. Probably our race leader. I say probably just because there is a chance that our camera runner has previously let go Joylene, who it's quite hard to pick up if you don't know that she's one of our female runners. And so Scout Aitken, a real surprise here. We will be getting a split quite soon from the women's race to find out who our top 10 are. But Scout Aitken, an absolute surprise, will be amongst the other athletes to be leading here. If we look back at some of her other her race performances, we've already mentioned quite how good she is a climber. And she'll be coming out quite soon at Chandelin. The time we'll be looking at is compared to our splits that we've had from last year. The course record at Ponchette, the 7K mark, is 57 minutes. Last year, Judith came through at 59. Madalena at 58.25. We'll be getting an update very soon when they come through that mark. And once they come through that mark, we'll also give you an update of our top 10 men. But at the moment, it looks like Scout Aitken is leading our women's field. An absolutely incredible performance from her. Now, Scout Aitken has a highest score, her best ever performance in a trail race, according to the ITRA rankings, is only recently actually a 7.84 at those European Championships. So she came fourth at the up and down, which is a 16-kilometer race with 960 meters of climbing and descent. More similar to this race. But in the shorter distance, the 7K purely uphill race, that's where she came second. And this looks like Patrick. No, sorry, no, this is our race leader still. And this is Madalena Florea. We're seeing now tucked in behind Joyce Nijiru. Those two locked together, both extremely fast across the top. So it wouldn't surprise me. I'd say at this stage, these two are our race favourites. And you can already see there, Joyce, as soon as she's hitting a bit of downhill, really looking to pull away as much as she can. Extremely fast over this type of terrain. And we're now looking at this to me, to see this is who I think is our race leader. They finally clocked her. Joylene. We did say before she was the surprise. Yes, in fact, confirmation here. Joylene Cepangino. Incredible racing from her. This is her first ever trail race. That may sound hard to believe. Her first ever trail race. I am reassured by her coach. They only discovered her 4 months ago. So 2 new athletes at the front of our race. This is incredible to see. And if you are Joyce or Madalena, they may not be aware that they're necessarily ahead because of the way the start of our race is. You can't, because of that bunch group start, it's very hard to keep track of everyone. So it won't be until they come through the first checkpoint that they get an update and the splits on where everyone is. But you can see the heat already. Scout is already trying to cool herself down, having to battle for a water there. And actually very wisely took on a lot of water. Significantly, though, didn't take on a bottle. And that could make quite a difference. When I spoke to, we mentioned Christian Allen earlier. a very experienced American trail runner. He said to me he was planning on taking 2 500-meter bottles of water, of liquid, an hour, a litre of water an hour. And we saw Scout coming through there. And even here, Patrick, Patrick has been, is this our first man? Wow. Surely not. Sure, we're just waiting for confirmation. This looks like Patrick to me, not our first man. We're just waiting for confirmation on that. Wow. I mean, if this is Josephat and he's managed to drop Killian, I mean, this is scary times for everyone in this race. The fact that he's pulling away from Killian now shows confidence, but also what is different to we don't often have a new Kenyan runner like Josephat come on the scene holding a water bottle. It normally takes at least a year of running before the athletes come from, typically coming through the World Mountain Series, the Mountain Running Cup, where it's shorter distances. It's not at this kind of heat. And so the fact he's got a water bottle in hand is really mature. It's showing that he understands nutrition is going to be absolutely essential to winning this race. So some nervous times if you're Killian. There must be question marks. And the question, and really now for Josephat is, can he build enough of a lead to be able to stop Killian Jornet catching him on the downhill? Because this is incredible to see. A new runner, and I don't know what's going on with our men's ranking there, but I don't think that's right unless Killian has dropped Josephat. But depending on what source we're looking at, this is potentially our race leader. Josephat, he's looking back, which to me means he's either tired or he's leading. And he's looking to check what his how much of a gap he's got on him. But we were talking, I mentioned before how Christian Allen is taking on a litre of water an hour. And the fact that Scout came through without a bottle in her hand, she took a couple of cups, but not much more. I don't know if that's going to be enough liquid to be able to fuel herself all the way to the finish line. But this is unmistakable there. That was Remy Bonnet, probably in third place then, if they're showing him on camera. And this is our third and fourth place ladies, Joyce DeGiroux and Madeline Ferreira, and they will now be on the chase. The question is, now that we're out of the substantial climbing, what has Remy got in the tank? Because he's worked a lot over these last 2 years to try and ensure that he's not just a climber. And we talked about that VK 10K that Killian had done. Significantly last year, Remy did the VK 10K, which is when you run a vertical kilometer in less than 30 minutes. You then run a 10K, and Remy's 10K was 10 minutes faster than Killian's had been when he broke the record. But we're now looking at our first and second man. This is incredible to see. This is Josephat on screen, side by side with Killian, to give you a sense of how they're running. But they have come through the 7K mark. They'll be coming up to the 10K mark soon. It's at Chandelin at the 2,000 meter point when we next get our race splits from them. So to talk you through the race splits so far, we've had our top 8 women coming through, but the race splits of our top 10 men. In first place at the 7K mark, and we know this has now changed, Killian Jornet, 47.48. On his shoulder was Josephat Kiprotich, 47.54. Third place, Remy Bonnet, 48.52, a minute down. 15 seconds behind him, Patrick Kipangino. In fifth place, another new Kenyan runner, Paul Machoka, in 50.73. 10 seconds down on him, Philemon Kiriago, last year's winner. In 50.49, in 7th place was Sylvain Cachard. 8th place, Roberto De Lorenzi. 9th place, Ezekiel Rotto. And in 10th place, Christian Allen from America with Alex Garcia on his shoulder. And we now have confirmation of our top 10 women through the 7K mark. As we've seen, we can confirm it was Joylene Cepangino through first place. Joylene Cepangino, the surprise runner here in 58.39. 10 seconds behind her, Scout Aitken from the UK. From Kendall running for Hoka. Then a minute back was Joyce Najiru and Madalena Floria in 3rd and 4th place. In 1:02, so a big jump back, 2 minutes back on them. Philaries Kisang with team Run Together. Sophia Lockley, the first time we've seen her in our screens, 1:02.20. So she's currently 2 minutes behind Joyce, 3 minutes 30 behind our race leaders, last year's winner. In 7th place, Christina Simeon from another Romanian runner. Wow, 2 in the top 10. Great performances from Romania. Anna Gibson in 8th place in 1:03 with Fernanda Camargue from Colombia in 9th and Julie Lejeune from France in 10th. But this is now, listen to those crowds. Kilian Jornet coming through the aid station. Wow. What a noise we've seen, and we can hear it in the background now of Josephat Kiprotich, our race leader. Now we're looking at some of the victories, some of the performances that Josephat has had already. He's been doing very well in the Mountain Running World Cup. I mean, obviously a very, very good runner. But significantly, this is the first race we've got in our statistic that he's been winning. So in the World Championships in Austria, so last year he came 3rd in the vertical kilometer. He came 3rd, wow, behind Patrick. So an incredible performance from him. We're seeing Remy Benet here alongside Patrick Kipagino. Our 3rd, 4th place battle going on. They are now in the hunt. They are approximately 2 minutes down, but we've got our splits coming through. They are now coming through. Chandelin. We've got our splits from Kilian. So Kilian is, wow, he's now only 15 seconds. In fact, Josephat is 15 seconds behind the course record coming through Chandelin. Josephat has picked up the pace and is only 15 seconds behind the course record. He's built a 30-second lead over Kilian, and we're just about to get our splits of Remy and Patrick. We're getting our race splits shortly, but wow, what a battle. The course record is on, and Kilian is going to have to respond at some point because he's managed to build a 30-second lead in only those 4 kilometers. And we're now with Kilian, and look, he can't see the race leader significantly. And as soon as he's out of sight, he no longer knows where anyone is. And that is worrisome because your mind starts to play tricks with you. So to give you an update, we had 1:06.16 for Josephat Kiprotich coming through at Chandelin. Behind him, 30 seconds behind him, Kilian Jornet. Then another 1 minute 30 in 1:08.09 was Patrick Kipagino. Second last year. Remy Benet, last year's series champion, on his shoulder in 1:08.11. Philemon is now on the chase, 1:09.22. Paul Machoka from Kenya, not even with a team, in 1:09.27. And we are now with Joyce Najiru, which signifies she has put some distance between her and Madalena Floria. Joyce Najiru now our 3rd place runner. She's won already in China and we should hopefully be able to see if there's... So there's a little bit of a gap between her and Madalena. The fact we can't see her. She's ninth standings, but she's only run 2 races so far this year. So actually, for me, she is the potential leader of our series at the end of this race. She came third in Kobe, the opening race of the series. She actually led until the halfway point, but had gone out too hard and was overcooked. So then was caught by Maud and Sarah Alonso. So she's learning this season from, in China though, she led from start to finish. But even by the end, she said she was struggling to run because again, she got out too hard. So the question today is whether she's got out too quickly. And this is Philarice we're now behind. Philarice, who I believe is in 5th place in the women's. Philarice Kisang, also from Team Run Together, a very, very good climber. She will be, while she's in 5th place now, I'd be surprised if she can maintain this position all the way through to the finish line, because she's known as an uphill runner and actually got caught by Joyce last year at this stage in another 10K or so. And this is now our 2nd place woman, Scout Adkin. Scout Adkin in 2nd place. We'll be getting some splits on where they are in the overall rankings when they come through Chandelin at the 12-kilometer mark. But we can already see she's not looking quite as fluid on this flatter section, so it wouldn't surprise me if they start to reel her in now, because she's known as a climber, and already this is a distance further than most of the races she's taken part in previously. If we look at the runs she's done so far this year, 20 kilometers is the longest race that is a significant race she's taken part in. That was the Monte de Nid Degli in France. She did win that race, but that was 20k. The other races she's taken part in, 16k, 13k, 10k, 7k. So she is a shorter distance specialist. But we're now back with our race leader. A surprise to everyone. Josephat from Team Run Together. In terms of his races this year, and then there are splits. You can see the gaps already happening. Huge gap between our top 4 and the chasing group. Will Philemon, last year's winner, be able to run them down? He is a better, faster flat runner and descender. But the real challenge now is this top 3. I believe any of our top 3, in fact, our top 4 can still potentially win this. 2 minutes is significant. We've seen, as we've mentioned, Andrew Blanis at Ponchet was in 20th. At Chandelin, the point they've just come through, he was in 9th place 2 years ago, and he won the overall race. So this is certainly not over. And you can see here, if we compare this running style now of Madalena versus Scout, Madalena is looking far faster. Madalena's coming from a road running background. She has a 1:11 half marathon time prior to joining the Golden Trail this season, where she joined us on race 3 at Mont Blanc. She was Romanian marathon champion. She's still got that speed in her, but she's had a slow start to the season. Really, she was struggling at the start of the year with a bit of a virus, and wasn't able to train quite as hard as she'd wanted. But she had a fantastic performance for me in Mont Blanc. The big challenge with her has been her race nutrition and whether she can take on enough liquids but also energy to race all the way through to the finish. At this stage of last year, she was leading the race, but was tracked down by Sophia locally. She just ran out of gas, and one of the challenges she'd had, we spoke together last year in before Pikes Peak, and she said because of nerves, she doesn't have any breakfast before races. And even during races, really struggles to take on anything without being sick. And so she's having to fuel the entire race with, and there's Bogdan Damien overtaking Scout there. He's finding his feet again. He's he's in our top 10, a very good Romanian runner. He's having the season of his life. But you can see Scout now looks like she's looking a bit more fluid, is opening up her stride a bit here, but she really needs to start pushing, because once she hits Chandelin, she's at the 2,000 meter mark. Our highest point is 2,400 meters. So she'll then have approximately 10 kilometers for those 400 meters. So you need to be really building up a lead, because runners like Madalena, runners like Judith and Joyce are super fast. And so she needs to keep on pressing, and this will be the challenge for her. And already, wow, Joyce is on it. And we talked about the difference in their kind of flatter speed, because this is not flat, but she's clawed back a massive difference in the running already. If we look at our splits, when they came through, Scout had like a 30-second lead, and she's already eaten that up. That is really significant now. And mentally, this will be really, really challenging for her, because she'd have felt so confident in those ups. The fact that she's used to shorter distances, there will be a question mark in her mind whether she's gone out too fast. But then to see someone come past so quickly just demoralizes you. The fact that that's happened already, Madalena is not going to be far behind, and we saw the pace Madalena was running up. If you get overtaken so quickly, 1, 2, bang, bang, you just don't feel like you belong in a race like this, and all of your confidence will drain away. So we really have to hope that Scout can really dig in deep here and has the confidence and the maturity to not let this get her, because with the heat, and they're still very, very far out. I mean, 31K compared to a marathon isn't significant, but this is almost 3 hours of racing they're going to be doing. And so they're not even at the halfway mark, and to be overtaking them mentally is extremely fast. It's extremely hard. But this is the first opportunity we've had to see our race leader, Joylene Cepingino. Unknown to anyone on this course, she has never raced a trail race before. Let that sink in. She has never, not even at home, not even against her teammates. She's only done training this last 4 months with Team Run Together. Prior to that, she's only done some track. We've never seen her run downhill before. She looks pretty good. I spoke to Thomas, her coach, and sorry, she's not Team Run Together. She is, apologies, first, she's Milimani Runners. She's the Milimani runner. I spoke to Julian, her coach, and he was saying that her statistics that he was basing her performance were compared to Philarice, who we've already seen on screen, and the statistics of her training prior to last year, where Philarice was actually in third place on that climb, extremely good climber. But the fact that she's running so fluidly, we know that when she was young, she was a very, very good track runner. And I mean, look at the way she's flowing here. Her arms are out. She's clearly confident. A slightly unusual technique, and probably is not trained in this type of pebble dash descent. But she's now coming through to Chandelin, and what a performance for her. But we're going for a break, but boy, they're chasing her down. The battle is about to erupt. But she's coming through here. You can hear the crowds. This is why we love Sierre-Zinal. It's just such great noise, and she's taking on a nutrition there. Let's see what she's got here. She's dropped one bottle. She's taking a bit of a drink. So she's got, I mean, the fact that she's got something in both hands is a very, very good sign. There's Timo, is that Timo there, a Slovenian camera runner? Not in the shape of his life, it has to be said. I expected a few more meters from you there, Timo. But the fact she took on 2 bottles, this is a great sign. She's now down to 1, but this will be the real challenge for her. She's never raced trail before. She has raced as a junior, but as we mentioned, she only was discovered 4 months ago. She's lost 30 kilograms of body weight since she had 2 children. This is the turnaround, like a properly inspirational storyline that we don't often hear from Kenyan runners. We expect them to almost be born running in their blood the whole time, but no, she is. It was only since she's seen the inspiration of compatriots running in races like this that she decided she wanted to get involved. But the fact she's never raced before means she is not used to this kind of having to take on nutrition. And stepping up to 3-hour races is extremely hard. Your body typically holds around 75 minutes of glycogen stores, and which is why they're taking on race nutrition throughout the course. But if you haven't had the opportunity to actually refuel properly, and that's not just liquid, that's your electrolytes, but that's taking on glucose, then you're going to run out of energy and you're going to bonk. And so we've just got to hope that she's had enough training and enough advice to be able to take on glycogen early on, and to be, we're hoping that's not water, but actually lots and lots of lovely glucose that she can take on board, because if not, it's going to be extremely hard for her to try and catch back on the energy, and it may be that she has a bonk at some point. But for now, she's looking wonderful. She's running quickly. I wouldn't say, to me, she's running quite as quickly as Madalena or Joyce. But hopefully she's still going to be flowing through, and we're going to be getting the race splits of our women as they've come through Chandelin. Chandelin is approximately 12 kilometers into our race. It's a 31 kilometer race. But as you can see, they're coming up to 1:22. So the men are well over halfway in terms of time. The women will be coming up to halfway when they reach very soon. 2:27 is approximately halfway for them. So she's coming up to the halfway point, but I think she's starting to slow down here. Yeah, she doesn't look, this is some quite steep climbing going up to Tignusa, but to me, she doesn't look quite as fluid as she did previously. But this is our race leader. Wow, he looks fantastic. There is no stopping Josephat. He's come through in a time of 1:22. 1:22.55. We didn't actually get this split the year Killian was running. This is Killian in second place. And we're back here with our race. We're back with our race leader of Sierre-Zinal. He's just come through Tignusa. Incredible running from him. An athlete who has never raced in Sierre-Zinal before. He came through in 1:23.15 just for a time trek. When Patrick came through here last year, he was in 1:24.01. So they're 45 seconds up on last year. Kylian Jornet in second place is 45 seconds down on our race leader. So he's built a 15-second lead since we last checked in at Chandelin. So they have gone through the halfway mark. They are now at 16 kilometers. But we are seeing behind us the Observatoire Francois Xavier Bagnord. And I'm quickly checking my notes on this wonderful, beautiful observatory that we're now seeing up on the hills of Sierre-Zinal. Now, this was inaugurated in 1995. And its architecture represents the oldest astronomical instrument. You guessed it, the sundial. Two telescopes with diameters of 60 and 40 centimeters, which introduces astronomy to the general public at an altitude of 2,200 meters. Lovely to see. And this is our third and fourth place. It looks like Remy and Patrick. Remy has re-seized the lead. Although, is that Remy? I'm not so sure. Yes, it is. So Remy Bonnet in third place and Patrick Kipangino. We're just about to get our splits on screen of our third and fourth place runners. But they are approximately 1 minute 30 down, so it's still extremely close. This is a surprise to me. This just shows how much people have underestimated Remy's strength at running flatter speeds. Patrick took the lead, took third place at some point, but Remy has fought back. So this is not over. Our top three places are all up for grabs. So to just remind you of our standings at the moment, in first place, Josephat Kiprotich in 1:23.15. 45 seconds behind him, Kylian Jornet, 9 times winner of Sierre-Zinal, is sat in second place. In third place, Remy Bonnet, 1:25.26. So over a minute behind and 1 second down on them, Patrick Kipangino. But we're now with our second place lady, Joyce Najiru. And again, she is not looking quite as fluid. There is some climbing in here. This is very, very bumpy going through. But she doesn't look quite as happy as I'd expect to see her at this stage. And we're going to get some splits when they come through as well to find out exactly where Madalena Floria and Sophia Locally and Judith Wieder are. Because those athletes will be tearing up the trail right now, trying to catch up. But the story, if you're just joining us, is that Jolene, our new runner, Jolene Chepangino from Kenya, is winning in her first ever Sierre-Zinal, her first ever trail race. And Josephat Kiprotich is leading his first ever Sierre-Zinal. Incredible scenes. At the moment, a 1-2 for Kenya of runners who are racing out of their skins. And the question mark is quite how much longer they can keep up this pace, because this will be their furthest ever races. And it doesn't look like they've been fueling throughout the race. So there'll be a big question now on whether they can maintain this pace all the way through to the finish line. Now, I'm just going to be texting off screen a little bit of information, trying to find out an update. If we can find out some more information about these runners. But and look at this. Beautiful peak here, but we can now hear our race splits, and they're growing. The race splits, the distances between them are growing. As we mentioned, Jolene leading 2 minutes now on Joyce Muthoni. Joyce Najiru. Scout Aiken fading away slightly. But significantly, there are big gaps now, 5 minutes down with Sophia Lockley and Judith Wieder as well. This is going to be extremely hard for them to catch up. Extremely hard. And we will recap the top 10 of our men and our women shortly, just so we have that. So we can get the full idea of where the changes are happening and exactly who we can expect to be coming through the second half of this field. So just to confirm there, they weren't on screen for very long. The race splits were our leader through at 1:19, coming through Tignusa significantly. We're just going to check those against our previous times. compared to last year, the course record is 1:18:51. So they're about a minute and a half down, a minute down on the course record. So this is the second fastest time we've ever had on this course. Incredible to see. Joyce, 2 minutes down on Joylene. Scout, 15-second minutes behind her. Scout Adkin from the UK. Madalena Faria, and we've got our men's top 10 here now. We can see, look at those gaps. 45 seconds, Killian. 2 minutes to Remy. And thinking of our other fast closers, Sylvain Cachard, 4 minutes behind, and Philemon Kiriago, 3 minutes behind. Both of them extremely fast closers. So the whole top five is up in the air because 45 seconds with those 600 meters of descent at the end, to me, is not a big enough need. Josephat needs to be pushing the pace more and more because I think he needs about a 2-minute lead over Killian to be able to see that through to the line. But he's still looking pretty fluid. But as we were saying, the splits from our ladies, we got to Madalena Floria was in fourth place, 1:22:44. Then we have Philaris Kisang from Kenya, team run together, 1:24:53. Sophia Locally from America, Team Salomon, 1:25:22. So she is 5 minutes down on the lead. Anna Gibson, 1:25:50, Team USA Brooks. Then we have Christina Simeon from Romania, 1:25:55. Julie Lelong from France, 1:27:05. Then Marion Liberich, 1:27:54 in 10th. No sign of Judith Weider. No sign of Judith Weider. Something must have happened to her because... and we've had confirmation Judith is out. This is really sad to see. We did know that Judith had Codif 2 weeks ago. She was hoping she could have recovered from it, but clearly Judith has not been able to recover from COVID, and she's done the right thing to pull out. You do not want to be putting your body through an extended battle like this. That's how you get long COVID, to my understanding. So we're so sorry to see you drop out, Judith. We hope you have a swift recovery, and we hope to see you back at Poland or back in America. But we are currently seeing our race leader. This is Joylene Cepangino. If you weren't here at the start, the story behind is absolutely inspirational. The story behind her. She's had 2 children. She used to be a fast runner, and she saw some of the runners she could beat when she was younger coming home with these medals, with these pots of gold from afar, and asked herself why she wasn't in amongst it, and lost 30 kilograms of weight. 30 kilograms of weight to be in the shape that she is today. But she has never run a trail race. She's never run a run of this distance. When I've asked her coach, when we've Googled, we can't find any results for her. And she only joined Team Milimani Runners 4 months ago, and she's leading out. So there are some big question marks about whether she's got the experience to have paced this to the line and whether she's taking on enough race nutrition to be able to run fast. But this, at the moment, is our leading chaser, Joyce Njiru, an extremely fast downhill runner, an extremely fast finisher if she's paced it right. She had a very good Sierre-Zinal last year, running through the field to take second place, but she started far more conservatively and was 4 minutes slower than the projected finish time she's running now. We saw in Kobe, she ran too quickly in the first half and suffered in the second half. We saw in the Four Sisters Mountain Trail, even though she won it, she said by the end she was practically walking. She went out too fast again. So even though Joyce is looking good now, there's still question marks about whether she can see this through to the finish, and actually whether runners like Madalena Faria and Sophia Lockley can use their experience and the fact they've paced it a little better and come through the field and maybe chase them down. And wow, this is significant. Scout Acton is over. I mean, this is not what we were predicting earlier. Scout Adking, who is not known for her distance and who already had backed off the pace, is now re-overtaking. Is this because of the slight climb coming up to Hotel Vison, or is this because Joyce has just overcooked it? Wow, what an overtake. And we've already mentioned how good Scout is. She comes from Kendal, the heart of the Lake District. We know she's a vertical kilometre champion. But to be overtaking Joyce at this stage, she'd built up around a 20-second lead earlier, so she's clearly feeling good. And some of the question marks about whether she can race the full 31 kilometres are being answered right here. Wow! So now Scout is the leading chaser, not Joyce Nijiru. And potentially more good news for Madalena Florea. The fact that they're together means that one of them isn't in a commanding enough position to be able to put distance. And so is this the opportunity Madalena has been waiting for? Can't wait it. So their next splits will be when they come through Tignusa at around 1:40. In around 3 minutes, we're going to get our next race split. There is no race split from the year that Maud set the record in 2019, but we will be able to compare it to last year's race split to get a sense of how they are running compared to Sophia, Madalena and Joyce back in 2023. But these two are changing lead again and again as well. Third and fourth place, Remy Bonnet, Patrick Kipageno. They know each other extremely well, but they have never been locked in a battle at this stage of a race before. If we think back to last year at Pikes Peak, Remy had already built a commanding lead at this stage. If we think to Mammoth Trail, again, there was a huge difference between them. Remy had built a lead. These two had got lost. Philemon and Patrick had got lost. And so even in our final, Remy by then was basically too tired and couldn't run it. So we've never seen them locked in a battle like this. And the question for me now is, in the women's, who are now seeing fourth place, Madalena Florea. Can she track them down? Has she got her nutrition right? And we saw in Mont Blanc, the last race, her first ever trail marathon, where she's raced it hard. She was on top of her nutrition. She only lost to Judith because Judith is so good on technical downhills. But actually, Madalena raced all the way through to the finish line. And if she is pacing her race today like she did in Mont Blanc, to me, Madalena is currently on as race favourite. I'm putting my hat on the line here. I'm not wearing a hat, but if I were, I'm putting it out there. I think at the moment, for me in the women's, Madalena is the race favourite. In the men's, I'm still backing Kylian Jornet. He's less than a minute behind our race leader, and I've never seen a Kenyan runner come to Sierre-Zinal and be able to finish quickly. Philemon is known as a great descender. 2 years ago, when he came here, he fell over on the descent. We saw Kevin Cabet come to Zagama, and he said to me before, I am a great downhill runner. And he was in bits on the downhill because it's so different, this technical descent towards the end of the race. And we'll see them running some downhill here. There are little bits of down between Chandelin and Hotel Weisshorn. But it's not until we get to Nava that we really start to see some descending at the 24-kilometre mark. And actually, it's not until the last 2K that it becomes incredibly steep where those tired legs suddenly turn into Bambi legs. And that's the moment at which we're going to see a step change from our stronger runners. And so while it looks like our athletes who are leading are building a little bit of a lead, that can disappear incredibly quickly as soon as we hit the 25K mark. This race is not over yet. But we're here with Scout Atkin from the UK in second place. She was just off the back of our race leader for the climb. At one point, it looked like she may have faded. Joyce Najuru overtaking her around 3 kilometers ago, but Scout Atkin is back. Return of the Atkin. She is back on form, now in second place, approximately 2 minutes down on our race leader, but only 30 seconds up on Madalena Florea. So the tail of this race for me is what happens in the next 2 kilometers. Will Scout maintain this lead, or will we suddenly see a very fast-looking Romanian with the colours of Romania in her hair overtake her? Because that is the challenge, is who is going to be our new challenger. But looking at the differences in running style, it is slightly different because Jolene is on a descent, and while it doesn't look like Scout is running up, she is still climbing here. These are very douchebag grades where you can't quite tell there is still climbing going on, but it doesn't look like Jolene is slowing down at all. It doesn't look like she's stiffing up. It looks like she is still fluid, absolutely flying down these hills. And for me, this is going to be hard to catch up because we expected Joyce to be looking far stronger at this stage in the race. But the fact that Joyce is still in third place and hasn't managed to take advantage of the shallower climbs puts the advantage back in Joylene's favour. And I'd want to tell you more about Jolene, but we just don't know anything about her. Even her coach doesn't know a huge amount about her background. We've mentioned she's got 2 children. She was texting me she has 1 daughter, one son. I have a young son called Hercules. We were exchanging photos so we could get to know each other a bit and try and find a little bit more about her background. But she really is a complete transformation, and it's her first ever flight to Europe. She's never traveled before. And often that offers a lot of challenges. She won't be used to the food. The time zone is slightly different. And even while there is altitude here, just the humidity and the heat is very different from back home. We do know at training at E10, while it is at altitude, actually it is slightly cooler. It's more like a British weather. So this will feel hot to her. But she's adapting incredibly well. And for a race that is her first ever trail race, from what we've heard, this is the longest she has ever raced in her life. This is an incredible performance. And the challenge is, can she last? Because as we know from marathon running, when you hit the 20-mile mark, which they're going to hit close to here, that is when the wheels can fall off. But in terms of time, when you get past that 2-hour mark, that is when, if you haven't been fueling effectively, you can suddenly just run out of glycogen stores, and the time it takes for your body to try and break down and try and turn fat into fuel, that's when you can be running on fumes. And so we've got to hope for her sake that she has been coached well enough, has been prepped well enough, and actually that she's put enough nutrition into her water bottles that she has enough to get her through this finish line. Because if not, that second half, if you've done too much of running on this, it's a brutal race. And because it's so sharp, that descent, if you have run out of energy and you've got painful legs, suddenly you can't run down that downhill. And that's when we see people fall. And we saw runner after runner fall last year and in previous years. And that is where if you lose your confidence and you then doubt your legs, you just shed minutes and minutes. But we're seeing Kylian Jornet, the greatest of all time, 9 times winner, here in second place. He's looking comfortable. As you can see, this is, as we talk about climbing, he is still climbing here. It doesn't look like it's much of a climb, but in the heat and after the amount of climbing they've done, they're already on 1,600 meters of climbing. They have a total of 2,200 meters of climbing before they even hit the 25-kilometer point. You know, this is an incredibly aggressive amount of ascent. But he's looking quite fluid right now. And unless Josephat can build more of a lead, I still think Kylian is looking like he is our race favourite right now. We're going to try and get some more splits, though, from the ladies. They've just come through Tignusa. Our first 4 ladies have come through, which gives us a really strong indication of exactly how they're performing compared to previous years, but what the gaps are and whether there is the opportunity for these top 3 places to change. So last year, as they came through this point, our race leader, Sophia, was through in 1:40.48. Joylene has come through in 1:40.31. So at the moment, she is in the second or third fastest ever time. Behind her, she now has a 2.5 minute gap over Scout Aitken. So she has increased that lead, a 2.5 minute gap. Scout is now, wow! Scout has built 30 seconds over Joyce. Joyce is suffering here. This, to me, is not her slowing down on the hills tactically. To me, Joyce looks like she may have overcooked it somewhat. And in 4th place, Madalina Florea of Romania, 1:44.16. She is now 4 minutes off the lead, and it looks like she has not been closing on Scout. Madalina is not closing either. So this signifies that Scout has actually been pacing this to perfection and is building on her second place. If we look behind them now, everyone's flooding through. We have in 5th place, Philaris Kisang. She's holding on strong, 1:46.36. Sophia Lockley, 1:47.16 in 7th. Christina Simeone, in 6th. Christina Simeone from Romania, 1:47.33. Anna Gibson now in 8th, tied 8th from Team Brooks. USA 1:47.33. Wow, that is some big changes indeed in our top 10. But it signifies to me that Joylene is not weakening. If anything, she's growing stronger and extending her lead. And it doesn't look as if there's anyone currently who is making moves enough for her to worry about her first place. And Scout Aitken is strengthening her second position. So at the moment we have a 1 and a 2 for runners who have never raced Sierre-Zinal before. Incredible to see. And for some updates in our men's. We're waiting for the updates in our men's now. We're just waiting for our update, but we're currently with, this is saying first man Kylian Jornet. We're waiting for confirmation of this. He was around 40 seconds down the last time we checked. We're just waiting for confirmation of this. We're just waiting for confirmation of where our first 2 runners are. Quite often, I mean, if this is true, I mean, this is a significant overtake by Kylian. Significant. And we know he's the master of this race. He knows how to pace it extremely well. We're just waiting for confirmation. In the last checkpoint we had, Hotel Weisshorn, it was neck and neck at Hotel. So this looks like this is the 1:43 mark. 7 minutes ago, they were neck and neck. So we can confirm it looks like Kilian has indeed made a move at Hotel Weisshorn. And as we predicted, when the uphill 37 seconds, wow. This is why he's the GOAT. Within 7 minutes, he has built a 30-second lead. We talked about how the climbing was over. Hotel Weisshorn is 2,387 meters. The peak is at Nava. They're not quite there yet, 2,400 meters. But there's no more significant climbing, and he's already put 30 seconds between them. The question now is whether Josephat can hang on, because Patrick and Remy are only 2 minutes behind. 2 minutes behind. Will that overtake have demoralized him? Is he suffering, or is it that Kilian is the master? But just to confirm, our ladies, there you can see our top 10 and significant. Wow. And again, Scout is 30 seconds up on them. This is incredible to see. So Joylene is increasing her lead. Scout is increasing her lead. And behind them, the gaps are big. The battle now is between second and third and seventh and eighth. Christina Simeone and Anna Gibson. Anna Gibson has been running 1,500 meters this year. She's only just finished training. She's run a 4:08 1,500 meter time, and this is her first race back. I'm amazed if she's going to hold that position, because this is how many times? This is over 60 times her usual race distance. Incredible. But we're back with the greatest of all time, Kilian Jornet, looking good at the moment for his 10th victory here. He was leading early on, but then Josephat from Kenya overtook a surprise move, someone who we hadn't predicted, hadn't even been flagged with us from his race team based on his previous race times, or even when he's raced in the World Championships, he's never even podiums, and yet he was in the lead. But as soon as we hit the end of the climbing with 11k to go, Kilian Jornet took to the front, and this is our race leader as well in the females. Incredible to see Joylene Chepangino from Kenya. Her first ever trail race. Unbelievable scenes here. What a performance from her. So many question marks around whether she could maintain this pace, whether she had the right fueling or not, whether she could last the distance. But actually, she's increasing her lead as she goes. Incredible to see. Absolutely incredible performances all round. But we're just on second place here now. Scout Aitken from Kendal in the UK. I'm sure the whole of the Lake District are watching this, shouting on. As we've mentioned before, prior to this, her best performances have been just this year, her highest ever ITRA score. She got a 7.82 in Monte de Nid Dangly, Degley in France. Only a 20-kilometer race, so already she's coming up to the 20k mark soon. You can see them there. Hotel Weisshorn is the 20k mark. That is where they reached 2,387 meters, almost our peak, as good as our peak really in terms of how it will feel to them. So when they hit that point, they'll then get the downhill all the way through to our finish. A 6-kilometer downhill into our finish line. We're yet to see really how good either of our front two females are at downhill running. Neither of them are known for it. Joylene has been talked about her uphill speed from her coaches, and Scout. If we look at all of the previous races she's done, it typically has been the uphill races she's done better than the up and down. If we look at the off-road championships, the European championships earlier this year, she came 4th in the up and down 16K, 2nd in the uphill. So, but there's over a 2.5 minute gap between them currently, our first and second place ladies. And so it will be a real challenge for her whether she can claw her back in. But actually, given this is the first time that Joylene has ever raced at this distance, it certainly isn't out of question that a 2.5 minute lead can't be clawed back. But Kylian Jornet now, he's going to be enjoying this. Hotel Vishorn we can see here. Beautiful building with I believe it has a smoker's room, a British smoker's room it's called. So, but we're getting confirmation now of this is the rankings at Hotel Vishorn. So this is, as you can see, 13 minutes to go. This has now changed. Kylian has a 30-second lead already, probably more by this stage. But the big question marks are 1 minute 47 isn't much. 1 minute 46. Remy and Patrick are coming. So Josephat, how much has that climb taken out of you? Because these two runners, Remy and Patrick, are extremely fast across the flat. They have experience of this race distance, and Remy last year at Mont Blanc last race at Mont Blanc was supremely confident. He did get cramps coming into the final descent, which allowed El Hussein to make a move and put distance in him. But actually speaking to him at the end, he was significantly down on El Hussein halfway down the final descent. But Remy then clawed back quite a gap. I think it was a 2 minute gap that he got back to 40 seconds. So Remy was showing, even though people don't really realize that he can now run downhill, he to me is going to be better than Patrick on this final descent, and 1 minute 50 could go extremely quickly. But whether or not Scout knows the positions is one of the question marks. She's new to the Golden Trail, and if you haven't got as many supporters as you don't know as many of the camera crew, you don't necessarily know the team of individuals at the aid stations, you're not given as many time updates. You can rely on updates from the crowd, but often the people in the crowd haven't been doing times based on their watch. They just remember someone ran past them and think, oh, was that 2-3 minutes ago? And so if you rely on the information you're getting from the crowd, quite often it's very, very wrong. So she might not know what the gaps ahead of her or the gaps behind her are. And I think if she's going to win this race, she's going to need to know how close it is and to be given a bit more confidence, because she's going to have to commit everything to these downhills, and it's going to be extremely hard to do when she's never raced a significant race like this at this level, at this distance. But one person who doesn't look like he's slowing down is Kylian Jornet. That's for sure. He'll be absolutely delighted and be wanting to put on a show for the audience and the crowd that he knows so well at the finish line. He's within touching distance of his own record. I'd be surprised if he can get to it, but now that he's got a sense of the temperature, it will allow him to slightly adjust his pace and leave nothing by the finish line. He would have been running the first third more conservatively. I think the fact now that he knows he's got the win as well will mean that he won't feel quite as concerned about pacing to the line, and will be able to actually just enjoy these descents and just take the foot off the brake and absolutely let it go as much as he can. But we're here now with Kilian. We talked about the ITRA scores, his highest ever ITRA scores. Sierre-Zinal, his score was 9.64 when he set the 225. Zagama, his score was 9.61. Super close. UTMB, his time of 19.49 was 9.52. The same his time at Hard Rock, 21.36. So actually, according to the ITRA rankings, Sierre-Zinal is his highest ever performance. The fact, at his age, coming back for the 10th time, the fact he's able to be up there with his absolute peak is incredible. And let's not forget, if you haven't seen the documentary they did about his Pyrenees adventure, unbelievable. He took on 177 peaks, 300 miles over 8 days, where he was scrambling. I'm scared of heights, but if you go and watch that documentary, it's absolutely incredible seeing all just free climbing, some of the peaks, some of the ridges, the descents, and yet he was still ticking off 300 miles and 177 peaks. So be able to do that and still train at a level that you can turn up today at your overall fittest ever peak at his age is absolutely inspirational. But who do we have on screen here? Just trying to figure out who this is. Trying to find. Is this Sylvain Cachard? This to me looks like Sylvain Cachard's style of running. I'm just getting confirmation of that in the blue. If that is Sylvain Cachard, that is mind-blowing because, and wow, and we now have our two runners. Is this the overtake? Second and third. We talked about Patrick being able to run extremely well. These two will know each other. Wow. So they have clawed back a massive lead. They were 2 minutes ahead at some point. They were 2 minutes ahead with less than 7 kilometers ago. And Patrick, two significant things here. Patrick has overtaken for second place, but also significantly, where is Remy Bonnet? Remy Bonnet was leading ahead of Patrick within the last 2 kilometers. So Remy has dropped off slightly. Patrick is feeling fantastic. And this, to me, is our overall race, our overall series leader. He's won twice this season. And look at the difference in fluidity. Last year, Patrick was leading this race, and he turned his ankle on a stone, which slowed him down. But even prior to that, he hasn't been running. Even when he won the VK Championships, so the World Championships, he hasn't been running at the level he had the year before, where he was breaking all of the records in the World Mountain Running Championships. He had a knee issue, and this year is only the first year we've been able to see Patrick at his peak, used to these distances. And you can see now he is back running fluidly. I can't see him pulling in Kilian, but Kilian's probably not expecting someone to be running him down with the speed that Patrick is. So if Kilian takes it easy, if Kilian enjoys this too much, who knows? Maybe there is another battle and this race for first place is not quite over. But if you're joining us now, and who's this on his shoulder? I believe this is maybe Philemon Kiriago overtaking our once leader, Josephat Kiprocic. So I believe now we have a 2-3-4 for Team Run Together, but the pack has been reshuffled. But the fact that Philemon has now caught up with Patrick, it could be that Philemon is our odds-on favourite to be second place and is now chasing down our new race leader, Kilian Jornet. And we are also with our first place female. She has never raced a trail race before. She was only signed to her race team in the last 4 months. She's lost 30 kilograms of weight since she was well, she's still a mother of 2, but since she decided to return to running, the mother of 2 are absolutely surprising to hear. Joylene Ciampongino. We knew that she was a good climber based off her pre-season training, the statistics, but the fact she's managed to hold on to this first place 2 hours in, and not just that, she's been extending her lead over second place Scout Aitken. Last time she came through a checkpoint, she had a 2 minutes 45 second lead. And this is some steep climbing coming into Hotel Vishorn here. You can see there that the bike is struggling. In fact, that's Hotel Vishorn in the background. We're just going to see if we've got another race split to get a sense of just quite how fast they are racing compared to previous years. So she has just come through the 20k mark, almost at our peak, 2,387 meters of climbing. The course record at Hotel Vishorn was 2 hours 43. She's come through in 2:03:20. Sophia at this stage, she's 20 seconds up on last year's race time. But look at these two. Brothers in arm, last year's winner. Philemon absolutely flowing through, and Patrick slightly ahead. They trained together, they know each other, and actually it was this race last year was the first time that Philemon had ever beaten Patrick. We mentioned about how Patrick had been injured with a sore knee, and that meant he hadn't been racing pre-season, and instead of Patrick winning all of the world mounting, oh, and there's the overtake, there was the pat on the bum. That is incredible to see. The older statesman now being overtaken by his younger compatriot. We didn't predict this, because if we look at what happened in China, if we looked what happened in Kobe, Philemon just couldn't race at the level of Patrick, and the suspicion was that Patrick had taken things to a new step from where he was last year. But actually, no, this is a race that truly suits Philemon, and it's the lack of a flat running and the downhills previously they had held him back. But now for Philemon to overtake, I don't think Patrick was expecting this. Patrick said to me over dinner, "You wait until you see me this year. I am going to be surprising you with my speed across these downhills." But no, Philemon is back, and we saw some of his pace when he was racing last year, but also in Mammoth Lakes when he jumped across the chasm, the earthquake of his running, destroying the land beneath him. This battle is on. I don't think Killian knows what's coming for him. Now, we also have an update on our women's race. Jolene came through in 2:03:20. 20 seconds up on Sophia last year. Scout Aitken has just come through Hotel Vishorn in 2:07:05. There is now a 3:40 gap. A 3-minute 40 gap. Joylene is extending her lead. Wow. And we can see Scout here. Joylene is extending her lead to 3:45. Impressive running from her. It looks like she's not slowing down one jot. If we look at the previous splits, in fact, yeah, she's really pulling some distance. And the question is, how close will they be behind her? Madalena Floria is now in third place. Madalena has overtaken Joyce. As suspected, Joyce had got out too hard, or something is wrong. She was in second place at one point, but Madalena Floria has come through in 2:08:54. So there's still a significant gap. There's 1:50 between Scout Aitken and Madalena. But Madalena we know to be a very fast downhill runner, a very fast flat runner. Madalena has a 1:11 half marathon time. We saw in Mammoth Lakes, we saw in the final just how far she can be when she gets when she gets the chop, when she just gets the race within her grasp. So it wouldn't surprise me if Madalena now is going to be clawing back that time on Scout, and Scout is going to have to make some moves if she's going to hold on to that 1:50 gap. Behind her, Joyce Najiru is still in fourth place, is now in fourth place, but in 2:09.39. 6 minutes off the lead, 40 seconds behind Madalena. So Joylene still has 11K to go with an almost 4-minute lead. That's going to be hard to claw back. But if anyone can do it, it's Madalena Fleuria. The battle is on. But you're joining us now. Kylian Jornet, leading at the front, looking sublime. The fact we've got a bike on them, I'm delighted, because it's going to be an absolute pleasure to see this craftsman show you quite how fast he can run the downhill, and whether the bikes can keep up in that very steep technical descent coming into the town. And now in second place, Philemon Kiriego. Fantastic running from him. He was way down earlier on and just content to sit back on the climb, knowing he was the faster descender. So Philemon Kiriego, he's looked slightly out of sorts this season. But I think in China it was a big step change for him. Last year he won Sierre-Zinal, and he almost won it too young. It was his 21st birthday. He then went to Pikes Peak and was completely demoralized by Remy, destroying both him and Patrick on the climb. And to me, Philemon gave up. He was in third place, and as soon as he realized he wasn't going to be on the podium, he just gave up. And I think he finished in 13th place overall. But in China, he was faced with a similar circumstance. He was struggling potentially with the altitude, but was really far down in the race, almost looking like he was going to drop out of the top 10, but then didn't give up and fought back, and he was the runner that came through the field. And just checking his results, he was either third or fourth, and I spoke to him afterwards, and he said he realised that he had to change. He had to race every race. And also, he knows his wife is at home watching him. And he came back after the trip to America, and he was in almighty trouble. And so the fact that he had that performance in China, to me, is why he's running such a mature race today. I don't think if he had that experience and realised that races aren't lost in the first half, that he'd be running so maturely today, and actually would have been so content to see these runners run away from him. And now that he's overtaken Patrick, I don't think anyone really expected that. I don't think Philemon expected that. We asked him in the press conference yesterday a direct question. Who do you think is going to win this? And he couldn't answer. He didn't know what to say. He's too polite. And he didn't want to dodge the question, but also he didn't want to say someone else, and he didn't want to say himself. And he really struggled. But I think part of the challenge was he didn't know who to name. And in other years, he'd have said Patrick or Remy in other races, but this time I just think he just wasn't quite as sure. And look at that. These poor cyclists trying to keep alive. I mean, this is going to be interesting to see quite how skilled they are, because can they catch up? In fact, they've given up. They've given up. They've given us a second cameraman now, so we can see. It might be some time before we see Kylian again. Look at him pull away. This is glorious to see. Oh, and in fact, wow. Was that second place? Was that second place on Killian? Oh, wow. Surely, what? Please confirm. The gods, confirm with me. Bring me back. Someone text me. It looks as if just as the cyclists had to pull over because they needed to let Philemon pass. Philemon was 45 seconds down, even further than that. So potentially, I think he's been catching up on Killian, and Killian won't know this. From when they go through Hotel Weisshorn, there aren't any significant checkpoints until Barnuza. And I don't think they've reached that point. So Killian will not know. There will be no crowds cheering. There will be nothing to show him. So this is second man now. Yes! Wow! Philemon is back! This race is not over. We can see Killian ahead. And Killian will not be expecting this. There is no way Killian will be expecting this. And he is closing him super fast. Wow, this is incredible to see. Last year's winner is back. And Killian will not know what to do. We talked about Killian's closing speed. We've talked about how fast he is on the descent. But significantly, it's only the last 2 kilometers that I believe Killian has a massive advantage. Look at this trail now. There are some small pebbles. There are a few rocks you've got to climb over. But actually, this is fast. And while there are a few climbs that they will be going up and along, most of the downhill running until the 30-kilometer mark, 5 kilometers to go, is smooth. And that means this is going to be back and forth. Look at this. This type of terrain is where Killian has a slight advantage if he can hold off on Philemon's speed. But there, you see, even look at the confidence. Philemon cut through the trees, but also the fact that Philemon is behind means he can see what Killian is doing. We saw in the final with Philemon and El Hussein. El Hussein sat back and did no work. And on every corner, El Hussein could cut the corner and just save vital yards. Philemon now is close enough to Killian that he can see what Killian's doing. Killian knows this trail better than anyone else on earth, other than maybe Jonathan Wyatt. And so that means he will know where to cut. And Philemon can see that. The advantage Killian has running down these hills is no more. He may be technically better, but his knowledge, his choosing a line will not help him. And that means it is game on Philemon, because as soon as this smooths out a little bit, Philemon will be able to attack. Wow, this is going to go all the way through to the finish line. And as we know from a few years ago with Petru Mamu, Killian cannot out-sprint the Africans. It is game on. But we are back with Joylene. Sorry, it's just getting a bit excited there. I thought this race was over, but this race is never over. And the question now is, can Joylene hold off Scout Akin and Madalena Florea? We're waiting for the next update we get from them. They've come through Hotel Weisshorn. We're not going to get an update for some time. So the next split will be hard to tell. Maybe our cameramen may say things, but look at this. Philip is on him. Wow. This is a masterclass of racing. And what will he do? Philemon's learnt the hard way from El Hussein to stick on his shoulder, but I don't know if that's the right thing. I think Philemon needs to overtake. I think he needs to take advantage. Like, this terrain here is where look, he's going for it. He's going for it. He's overtaken. He's made it fast. I have never seen anyone ever. Has this ever happened? Kilian Jornet has been overtaken towards the end of a race this short. This has never, ever, ever happened. He's had COVID before. That's the only ever time he's lost this. He's had a stomach upset once before, but I don't think he's ever been overtaken. And this is a downhill. What is this going to be doing to his mind? How is he going to respond? Because he was not expecting this. I was not expecting it. Don't lie to yourself. You were not expecting this. Do not lie to yourself. No one has been expecting this. And there's distance. There's distance between them. He's pulling away. This is a decisive move. And the camera, come on, Damien. This is Damien from Poland. Damien, do not give up. Get in there, Damien. You've got this. And as you can see, this is open ground. This is fast running. And this is where it comes down to, this is race management, energy management, speed, and skill. But the crowds are there. They are getting so close to the finish now. They are at 2:20. I remind you, the record is 2:25. They're projected to be finishing in 2:20. But you see the technicality. He's overtaken again. He's back. He's back again. It does open up. And Kilian knows now he is going to have to give everything. He's never been in a race like this at this stage. The closest has been when Robbie Simpson was ahead of him and Kilian overtook him with 200 meters to go. But that was when Robbie Simpson was way ahead. They were never battling like this. But Kilian now is running for fear. What can Philemon do? Come on, Philemon. This is the kind of terrain you can race over. You've got to reply. You've got to go now because you're not going to catch him with the steepness of that last descent. Wow. What a battle this is. And could this closeness push him through to the course record? As a reminder, the course record is 2:25.35. And we are... Oh, get out of the way, people. Kilian is coming through. And this bull is enraged. 2:25 is the time we're looking at. And as a reminder, that was Kilian's highest ever ITRA score. The ITRA score is based on your finish time, but also the level of the runners you are running against. He is running against the other two highest, the other two runners are the highest ever ITRA scores as well. Patrick and Remy have scored unbelievable scores. So if Kilian does this against Patrick and Remy, this potentially will be the highest ever, the greatest ever trail race. I don't want to promise you that because I might be slightly wrong on the calculations, and we won't know until that finish time. But I think we're now with third place man, and Patrick, this is gonna hurt. But let's not think about pain, because that's what Kilian will try not to be thinking of now, and the energy he will be getting from this crowd. They'll be expecting him to come in like this, but they will not know the story behind it. And I mean, we wonder why Kilian still races when he's got 9 under his belt, and he would have paid to have a race like this. This is exactly what he wants to say. And this is Scout Aitken in second place. Last time we checked, she was 3 minutes 45 behind the race lead. 45 seconds behind her was Madalena Faria. We're waiting to get splits to get an update. They're coming to Hotel Weisshorn quite soon. But we are minutes away from a potential 10th victory for Kilian Jornet at Sierre-Zinal, now in its 51st year. This is unbelievable. And you see that? This is the beginning of the end through the tunnel. And you hear that, let's listen to those crowds. It's growing, it's growing. He's not looked back yet. This is, the cameraman's trying to look back to give us an inkling. Significantly with this noise though, you cannot hear behind you. He will not know where they are because there's no gap, but there will be no reduction in the cheer between him and the race leader. Can he look back there? Did he try and look back? What have we got? Wow. He turned the heat on, and so Philemon's still there, but this is too close to the end now. This is too close to the end. A minute to go until the race record, 1 minute 10. He knows the course record, and you'll see the finishers. We haven't mentioned them. There are 6,000 racers who started at 6,000 runners in this race who started at 4 a.m. Oh, how is this? It could be doable, We've got 45 seconds. Oh, come on, Killian. Come on now. If sprint like Patrick Mamo is on your shoulder, come on, Killian. I don't think he can get the course record. Oh, maybe. He comes through this straight. It dips a little bit, and then we turn in left to the finish line. Oh, boy, this is going to be... We've got 30 seconds until the race finish. This left turn is the race finish. And Philemon is coming back as well. But he won't know from the noise. And here he comes. We've got 35 seconds. 15 seconds to that. Oh, 56. We're going to count it down. 10, 9. Oh, he's not going to get the course record. But Philemon is coming. Philemon is coming. This is all the way through the line. Come on, Philemon. Cut that corner. This is all the way to the line. Philemon's coming. Where is that race coming? And there's the race. Oh, what, his 10th ever victory as Sierre-Zinal slowly outside. This is incredible to see. Kilian Jornet wins the 51st Sierre-Zinal Marathon. That surely has to be the closest finish in living memory. And what a battle that was. Philemon was nowhere at the halfway. What a finish. He caught him with less than a kilometre to go. But the champion, he still had something left. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was running on fumes. But you don't get to win it 9 times without knowing how to close a race. And the fact they're both on the floor. What a finish. The best finish to a Golden Trail I have ever seen. 100 more meters, and that could have been a different finish. But what a result as well to Patrick Kipageno. In second place at one point, overtaken for a second year in a row by his younger compatriot. But what a performance to battle with Remy, to pull away, and to finish third. He'll be delighted with this time. It's faster than his time last year. Last year's winning time, 2:27.27. All 3 of them under. These are the three of the 4 fastest times ever. You were looking at the 3 fastest ever finishers of Sierre-Zinal. But now, back to our females. Joylene Cepengino, her first ever trail race. Her first ever race of this distance. She has not raced a race since she ran in school. This is how phenomenal her performance is today. She has lost 30 kilograms to be leading. And at the last time we checked, she had a 4-minute lead. We're just waiting on an update on when they came through. So they came through our last checkpoint at Hotel Wieshorn in 2:03. At that stage, she had a 4-minute lead, 3:45 over Scout Aitken from the UK, Team Hoka. In third place was Madalena Florea in 2:08, 5 minutes 34 down on the overall lead. Joyce Najiru leading and at second place at different times in this race in 2:09.39. The last time we got a proper split, the big question was whether Scout could make any dent into that 3:45 lead that Jolene we have on screen had over her. And also whether Madalena Florea, the 2:11 half marathon winner of last year's final, whether she could use that speed to claw back Scout Aitken. She was 1 minute 45 down. So quite a big cushion, but we know she's extremely fast, and we saw at Mont Blanc she can run through to the finish line. But you're now joining us with Joylene Cepengino. An absolutely unbelievable performance from her. We know so little about her because there is just so little to say about her story until now. She ran at school. She was a champion at school, but there's nothing online. There's no races in the ITRA records. Nothing that tells the story of how she's done. And we're now seeing our once race leader coming through to take 4th position, we believe, unless we've missed Remy Bonnet. So we're looking at Josephat Kiprotich from Run Together. He led for many, many miles, all the way through to the 20k mark, where he was neck and neck with Kylian Jornet. With 11k to go, it just shows how important downhill running is, and also how brutal this race can be once you run out of energy. But a tremendous performance from him to come here and to be leading for so long. Just for reference, he came second. He's come second this year at Monte de Nid Digli. And at last year's World Championships, he only came 3rd in the VK behind Patrick, 7k. He came 8th in the Mountain Classic, the 14k. So to race something significantly further, with significantly more climbing, 2,200 meters of climbing, and to have led to the 20k mark. This is in fact, we're going to hear from Kylian shortly, so I'll...
Of Sierre-Zinal 2024. Kylian, your 10th victory here, maybe the hardest one.
Yeah, today it's been an amazing day. Very hard. I had cramps from like the hotel waistcorn, so it's been tough. I was feeling good. I started strong. I wanted to make some gap. I started strong. Well, yeah. After it was hard. I think today it was hot and we ran very fast. So the legs was at its maximum. Cramps were at the limit, and the last downhill I was just trying to not get a strong cramp. I was having small ones and looking. Patrick and Philemon that they were like coming and catching me. I was like, oh, that's going to be impossible. But in the last downhill, I found 1 gear more and could push to the line. So I'm very, very happy.
Today, you had everything against you.
We've just lost the audio there, but as you can see, delighted to win that one. And as he said, he was battling with cramps.
That's what it makes me very, very proud and happy to get back to this amazing race that it's giving me like everything.
And did you think at one point you're gonna lose this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Like at Hotel Waistcorn, I was pretty confident. I was feeling okay, like just keeping it together. But then I started to feel cramps, and when I saw that they were 3 catching me, I thought that, oh, that's going to be a very hard one. Philemon passed me, I was like thinking, okay, no possible, I could follow you. I had cramps. Luckily, it was just at the end in the downhill. I say, okay, there is where I have my last chance, so I give it everything. But till the finish line, I didn't. I wasn't that confident.
And last question, will we see Kylian Jornet again on Sierre-Zinal next year?
Well, like I haven't missed many since 2009, so it's a pretty sure guess.
Thank you very much and congratulations.
No, thank you.
What a champion! What a race! And as you heard, even someone as experienced as Kylian, who's run multiple 100-milers, still struggled today with the heat, with the intensity of the battle, and just trying to get enough on electrolytes, getting nutrition to not cramp. It's super tough. So contrast that. Kylian, the greatest of all time, struggling with cramps. Then we go to our current race leader in the women's, who's never raced a trail race before. She's never raced this far before. How is she doing this? It's incredible to see. Just mind-blowing, the level of talent that Joylene Cepangino has to be able to running this fluidly, this strongly at this stage of a race that is a challenge for even the best of them is just incredible. And we're now getting some splits through. So we've just had coming through Bunniza. This is the 26-27K mark. 2,210 meters of climbing. So they have 4K less to go. Approximately 4 to 5K left to go. And in terms of descending, they've only got 600 meters of descending. So Joyline from Milimani Runners has come through in 2:33.41. 2:33.41. We've got our second lady on screen. To give a reference of where that stands us, she's dropping off the pace to last year. She was Sophia came through at 2:33.09. So she's shed about a minute on Sophia over the since Hoto Voicehorn to Barneza, which is around 7K. Compared to last year, she's dropped a minute. The reason I'm comparing it is it gives us an indication of whether or not there's a chance that Scout or Madalena can catch her. She had a 4-minute lead at Hoto Weisshorn. She's dropped a minute versus Sophia last year. I'm pretty sure that Scout won't be running as fast as Sophia last year. But with around 4.5K to go, is there a chance? We've seen how significantly different the paces can be. Wow, there's a kilometre in it. And given how tired they've been now, what are we saying, 1.2? 4 minutes? 5 minutes, potentially. So it seems as if the gap is fairly similar. But there you go, 5 minutes 15. My maths is not too bad. Thank you, Mr. Millington. But yeah, 5 minutes. So we've got to hope that Joylene wins from here, because if she doesn't win from here, it means she's had an accident. Because while she may not be experienced enough to be a great technical downhill runner, surely she can take the foot off the gas a little bit and cruise this in. But that's if she's been updated. She won't have received any aid for a while. She might not know how far the split is between her and second. So she may still be running thinking that the second place person could be coming on her shoulder at any point. And that pressure is often when accidents can happen. When you're tired, if you haven't fueled properly, actually around 30% of the glycogen stored when it's used fuels your brain. And so this is why we make bad decisions when we're tired. And so if she hasn't fueled properly today and she's not getting enough of those sugars to her brain, that's when potentially things like judging distances and concentration really play a part. But confirmation of our top 10, 2:55, 2:25.34. Whoa, whoa, it's a record. Oh, wait, I need confirmation of this. It's a record by 1 second. How did I not realize this? It's because we didn't see the finish line. This is wow. I'm looking at my piece of paper. I'm looking at the screen. I'm pretty sure this is a new course record. I'm going to put it out there, people. This is the best trail race in the history of trail races. Look how close this is. Look at the top three. And it looks like Rebby's suffered a bit and dropped down. To me, this is the greatest trail race we have ever seen in men's trail running. Whether or not it's the record, which it may be because of that sprint finish. Wow. I would have shouted even louder had I known at the finish line. Incredible. But coming back to the women's race, unbelievable to see her on her first race performing at this level. And how the Golden Trail Series works. There's 8 races and then a final. And your best 4 races score. So when we looked at the beginning of the the race and we saw and this is Madalena Faria now in 3rd place. She's looking fluid, but it doesn't look like she's attacking this in the way I've seen her run this at different stages. 5.3k mark. So we should be getting a split from her quite soon to be able to gauge exactly what the splits are. But the fact we can't see Scout ahead, and actually they've not come through the checkpoint yet. In fact, Scout has just come through now. So Scout is now 5:45 behind Joylene. A significant difference. She's put 2 minutes between Hoto Weisshorn. So while it just shows how fast Sophia locally was running last year, while Joylene maybe a minute down off last year's pace over that section, she's 2 minutes up on Scout. So clearly the heat is making everyone suffer, which makes it even more ridiculous that Kilian has potentially, we think, broken the course record by less than a second. Wow. I mean, could you have asked for more from a trail race? But how the racing works, and in fact, I'm just going to ask for complete confirmation. How this race works, each race counts for 200 points. Your top 4 races from the season count towards the final. So there's a maximum you can go into a final up to 800 points. So going into this race, Patrick had 400 points, but having only raced 2 races. And someone like Joylene, who's joining now, there's actually 4 races left, including this one, to our season. If you come top 10 of the Golden Trail Series, no matter who you are, where you come from, you then have full expenses paid, travel, everything like that. Not only do you win money for today's race, and there's also prizes based on finish time. So Kilian will be ka-ching, ching, ching today. You then get full expenses paid to come to the next race. So for someone like Scout, for someone like Joylene, this has now potentially unlocked a professional athlete career for them, because they'll be able to come to Poland, should they wish, next week, where we'll be racing the Tatra Sky Marathon. Or they wish, take the full expenses to come to America to race in Mammoth Lakes trail race, or and so this can be a significant difference for them as individuals. And we'd think back to last year, Philemon had never raced a Golden Trail race before, or had never significantly performed at a Golden Trail race, and suddenly he then joined the tour. He flew to America, as did Patrick. They ended up at top 5 overall in the series, able to take prize money home, where Philemon now has opened up a restaurant at home with the winnings of his racing of the previous season. He won't tell anyone where it is because he doesn't want his friends going there and trying to get free food. But I've seen pictures. It looks beautiful. So this is significant because for runners like Scout Aitken and Joylene Chippangino, they now will be offered free assistance to come to Golden Trail. And there were 3 races left where they can score. So in theory, Joylene could still score a maximum 800 points and take them into our final in Switzerland. But also, in terms of sponsorships, Scout will have some sponsors. Joylene will have the support of Run Together. But the fact you've run and won a race like Sierre-Zinal against a field as strong as Sophia locally, Madalena Faria, Joyce Nijiru, Judith Wieder, this will signify to the world stage that these are serious trail running athletes. If they don't have significant contracts, people will be coming to them now, offering them off the base of this one performance, 2-year deals. And so they will remember this moment, just not just for the race result, the performance, but also the step change this has in their life. Because from now on, these athletes, should they wish, will have the opportunity to be full-time professional athletes. And that to me is what I love about the Golden Trail. We can take people from anywhere around the world who've never raced a trail before, who've never raced a race before that's been ever catalogued on the internet, and come here and win the biggest trail race in Europe. 51 years, 6,000 people running it today. And you can turn up here and you put your names in the history books. Incredible to see. Kilian's 10th, almost certainly Joylene's first. And just to confirm, we've had double confirmation. He has got the course record. Wow. I didn't get to watch the second half of the Olympic marathon. I was bored when Kipchoge dropped out, to be fair. It ain't trail running. And it's not a race like this. But if you're new to trail running, join us for the rest of the Golden Trail series. The reason why this series has been put together is to try and bring together the best trail races and the most exciting trail races in the world to create one series so we can crown an overall world champion. And the reason why we've chosen races that are between half marathon and marathon distance is because you just don't get the battles like this at longer distances. And to perform at this level, not only do you have to be a great runner, but actually you have to be technically skilled. And we saw the way that Kilian overtook SALOMON. As soon as it became a little bit more technical, he jumped, he darted by, and actually there's such technical skill involved in some of our courses that seeing someone like Kilian Jornet run downhill, there's nothing more beautiful to me than that in our sport. And sadly, Judith Wieder had to drop out today because of the tail end of COVID from 2 weeks ago. But you see her run downhill, see El Hassin flow down a downhill. And that to me is one of the most beautiful things in sport. And you just don't get that in marathon running, in road running, in ultra running. And that's what the Golden Trail is. So if you've enjoyed today, strap in, people. We've still got 3 more races in the final. And please step aside. Female leader coming through. Come on, Joylene. And this is another challenge. If you've never raced a trail race before, you don't know what the etiquette is. And she's well within her rights to say, "Oi, leader coming through," and to expect them to move aside. But you can, I mean, she's looking good here. She's adapting, and this is very tired legs on very steep ascent. But you can see she is coming through now to our finish. 2:47. We predict her finish time to be around the kind of 2:55 mark. 7 minutes or so, but we've already seen these pictures, right? We know how this happens. It gets a little bit more technical. This is the point at where Kilian broke free. He used this slight opportunity, and you can see the way she's changed her pace slightly. She's doing well to have her hands out, but this is where it's very easy to lose concentration when people are shouting at you. In fact, that moment there is where SALOMON fell 3 years ago when in almost a replay of this battle, Kilian overtook him at that stage. But at that stage, he was for 6th or 7th, I believe, because Kilian had himself COVID without realizing it. But she'll be 5, 6, 7 minutes from the finish, and we've now got Scout Aitken, who's another 5 minutes back. So about 10 minutes away, but still looking incredibly fluid. And what a performance from her. Let's remind you, she's from Kendal, beautiful place where the mint cake comes from, and in the Lake District. So this will be like running through the Sahara for her. I think they have 2 days of sunlight a year, and so for her, this will, to come and to take on the world's best, and to not only race to the finish line, but you saw how fast she went out, how much she committed to the climbing. It was just incredible to see. So just wonderful to see incredible, inspiring performances from our female athletes. And what I've really loved about this race is we often talk about inspiration and how much seeing an athlete run and understanding and seeing how fun something looks can get people to get off the couch and run. But we rarely hear about the inspiration that our sport can have in countries like Kenya. And no one summarizes that as much as Joylene. I can't think of anyone else in World Trail who has lost 30 kilograms of weight, who's in the top 10 ever, let alone a female athlete. So to see a mum of two hear about trail running, to be inspired by the performances of her compatriots, and to then commit herself to getting back into the sport, losing 30 kilograms, and to come out here and to win your first race. How good is she going to be in 2 years' time when she knows how to pace, when she knows how to run technical trail, and she's learned how to actually take on race nutrition? Incredible scenes, incredible. And in some ways, very significant. We're maybe seeing a changing of the guard. One of the finest performances, in fact, the finest performance of the greatest trail runner in history is this race today. It's faster than his ever highest ITRA score. And we're now seeing him. And I'm not saying it's the end of his career, because I'm sure Killian will be racing things and probably even winning things into his 60s. But to go from that, to see a runner on their very first run come out and lead from the start. This is how much of a surprise it was. Even the cameramen didn't know she was ahead of them. No one knew to look out for her, other than us commentators who'd been tipped off by her coach saying, watch out, she is phenomenal. But I was expecting this from her in the first third. We knew she could climb well. But to see a runner of this experience, is she clapping? Was she clapping? That would be wicked if she was. But to see her come out here, the first time she's travelled to Europe, I should have asked her what she was eating. We do know from Joyce loves schnitzel. We've got to find out what Joylene loves. But to come here and to pace a race like this, 31 kilometres, where you've gone out faster than anyone else in the world on one of the hardest climbs, 2,200 metres of climbing, and to still run strongly all the way through 31 kilometres. And you can hear the helicopter now. I was speaking to Pablo, 4 times winner of the of Sierre-Zinal, and he was saying back in the day, the whole thing was filmed by helicopters, and it was a nightmare because it would cause all the dust to blow up in your face. So if you were leading, you had this massive disadvantage. And because none of the locals were expecting you to be coming by, they had to get the local military to stand with whistles and to blow whistles to get the attention of the hikers to move out the way. But some more people are going to move out the way here because of the speed. Joylene is coming through this finish line. This is incredible to see. The Milimani runner coming through in her first ever trail race. Let me repeat that. Her first ever trail race. The longest race she's ever run. The first race on record anywhere in the world since she was a school child. She's lost 30 kilograms of weight. A truly inspirational story. We hope her son and daughter are watching from home. But coming through the finish line now, winning the 51st Sierre-Zinal from Kenya, Joylene Chepengino wins Sierre-Zinal in a time of 2:54. A phenomenal performance from the Kenyan runner. Unknown to the world until 3 hours ago, the Milimani runner destroyed the field, leading from the start. attacking the first climb and never looking back. She looks at ease up those hills as much as she did down it. And this is a moment that will transform her life, her family's. Remember this, because this is a runner we're going to hear more about. Incredible performance from her. And you can see on the emotion on her face, she's not quite sure what to make of that. But just think that, not only has she not raced a race like this, it's not just the level of competition she's not used to. She's never had to go to bed knowing she's getting up at a certain time. She's never carb loaded. She's never had to take an hour-long bus ride with no liquid, if you've not planned for it, to get to the finish line and line up crowded in with people from every other nation you can't really communicate with. Just so many challenges. Absolutely, and the fact she's going out to thank the crowd. What a legend. Beautiful to see, absolutely beautiful. And from one legend to another, Scout Aitken, the Kendall runner, an incredible performance from her. She only came into the international scene in 2019, coming 6th in the Snowdon International Race, 15K race. Her first proper trail race on the international scene. She followed that up at the European Championships 3 years later, coming 4th in the 8K and 3rd in the 17K. And last year's World Champs, she came 8th in the 7K. But it was only really this year that she started to have some significant wins. 2nd in the European uphill, the 7K. Winner of Montemuro vertical run in Portugal. And winner of Monte de Nid, Dangly. Again, another runner who took it out on the first hill. Many questions about whether she'd be able to maintain this pace all the way through to the finish line. If she had enough experience at race nutrition in these longer distances. And while it looked like she tired, and at one point was caught by Joyce Giroux, she never gave in and carried on battling. Absolutely incredible performance. But you can see now, these are some painful legs. She's certainly not running quite as fluidly as she had previously. And we expect her to be finishing in the next 4 minutes or so. The next 4 minutes. But that's got to be hurting. Now we're going to do a quick update on our top 10 from the last checkpoint. We had Scout Aitken come through in 2:39. Behind her was Madalena Floria in 3rd, 2:41. Then in 4th place was Philarise Kisang, 2:43.17. In 5th place was Christina Simeon from Romania, 2:44.54. In 6th place, Anna Gibson, wow, she's coming back, 2:45.31. 7th place, Sophia Lockley, 2:46.14. 8th place, Joyce Giroux. It seems like she's really struggling now, 2:46.43. So actually, if we look at 6th place to 8th place, they're all within a minute. So the battle for 5th through 10th is very much on. In 9th place,
for winning this race. Thank you very much. It was very hard, but I tried my best.
I just heard it was your first race ever, and I also heard you lost 30 kilos before training for trail running. How long did it take to lose all these kilos?
It takes about 1.5 years. Yeah. That I'm very happy for that. It was my first time, but I win the race. Thank you very much.
But did you think you were able to win today?
I was not, but by the grace of God, and thank you for winning this race. It was my first time.
And what was the strategy? We saw you started from the beginning. It was a plan?
Yeah, it was very hilly, but I tried my best. Yeah, when I was about 11 kilometers, I saw it was not hilly. Yeah.
Congratulations, and we hope we will see you again on the Golden Trail Series race.
Thank you very much.
Wow. I mean, even just as a weight loss story, to lose 30 kilograms in a year and a half, just remarkable. So I say to anyone at home who's struggling with their fitness, who's maybe caught in a bit of a rut, transformation is possible. I'm not saying you're going to come and win Sierre-Zinal next year. I truly didn't believe that was possible, and so I just saw it right now. But change is possible. Fitness is one step away. And as we can see, the power of trail running and how transformative it can be. But coming through now, Scout Aitken, the Kendall runner. What a performance from her as well. Absolutely fantastic to see. She'll be surprised by this performance and absolutely lapping up these crowds now. Unbelievable finish from her. By far the longest race, a significant race she's competed in on the international scale. Prior to this, she's done a couple of 20k races at Gran Canaria, but to add on to those races, like 2,200 meters of climbing and 31 kilometers, 3 hours of racing is significantly different. So what a tremendous performance from her to come through. And we can see on those downhills the pain. So our second place position in Sierre-Zinal, the British runner, Scout Aitken. Incredible to see. What a performance from her. Unbelievable. Top two in place. A quite different response to Joylene. And you sit down, you've earned that rest. And the big question now is who will be third in sight? Madalena Florea was around a minute and a half behind when they came through with 7k to go. So we expect to see her in the next couple of minutes. But Philaris Kisang wasn't far behind, within a minute of her. And actually, from Madalena all the way back to 8th place was less than 5 minutes. So there will be many, many battles coming through. But Madalena Florea, a strong performance from her. There have been question marks last season about how long she can last. She had a tremendous performance to win our final in Italy. And we saw at Mont Blanc her first competitive trail marathon, that she was learning to manage her race better and could last the distance. That suggests that maybe this would be the race for her. But today it seemed this course was won by climbers. And if we looked at the significant gaps that were made, Joylene and Scout destroyed the field in those 2,200 meters to climb. And you can see the smile on her face. She'll be happy from that. 2 races done, a second and a third. We'll be seeing her in, I think in Poland next weekend, but also in America, where she returns hopeful to win in Mammoth, the Mammoth Trail Race. She was leading last year before she lost. So our 1, 2, 3 for today confirmed. And not far behind, Philaris Kisang from Team Run Together. She was in 3rd place last year before she fell away. We first saw her joining the Golden Trail National Series finals 2 years ago, where she battled for 5 days, coming top 5 overall, but never quite reaching the podium. Again, slightly off the podiums, but a great performance from her to battle all the way to the finish, and actually certainly an improvement on her result last year, given the level of the competition ahead of her. She can be proud with today, and I think she'll take some strength from the fact she caught up Joyce, given that last year the roles were reversed. But coming into our finish now, Philaris Kisang from Team Run Together, finishing today in a time of 3:05:52. Congratulations to her. And this is where the battles begin. Our second Romanian is scheduled to be next, Christina Simeone, but Anna Gibson, who's been training for 1,500 meters until this race, who has a 4:08 1,500 meter time. If there's a time to be able to sprint fast, it's going to be this finish line, because it looks like she's closing. And this is our runner, 2:7. This is Christina Simeone from Romania. A 1-2 for Romania in the top 5. Incredible to see. 2 Kenyans, 2 Romanians. What's the commonality? We don't know. And 1 Brit. Get in there, Scouts. But again, another great performance from Christina Simeone. We haven't seen her top 10 in the Golden Trail before. We hope that this means she'll now be joining us for the rest of the series. And next week we'll be going to Poland for the first edition of the Golden Trail Tatcha Sky Race. A race closer to home for her. Coming in for 5th place, Christina Simeone from Romania, from an SD in Romania for Team Stinty Bacau. It looks like Simeone's not got a sponsor. As I mentioned before, this is the impact this race can have. This is watched around the world, and it wouldn't surprise me if she has a different race top on by next weekend, even if it's a lent one from a sponsor without while the ink on a contract starts to dry. And we're expecting another runner who we hope to see feature in our season, Anna Gibson. She's currently in 6th place. As I mentioned, runs for Brooks in the 1500s. She's a dual athlete, sponsored for both sports. Last year, she appeared at Pikes Peak. She'd been injured after her season, cycling mainly on bike for her training, and turned up to Pikes Peak as her first proper race, unsure whether she'd be able to finish the race. And because of how good her lungs were, she ended up finishing top 5 in Pikes Peak and joined the series. So while this is the 6th place for her here, indeed, here she is, Anna Gibson. She'll be delighted with that. To come from 9th place and actually catch people up with only a base of 1,500 meter running is incredible. So once she gets a few more miles in her legs, and apparently she's learned from that training and still does a couple of her sessions now on the bike to give her some variety, but also just to ease the pressure on her legs and to reduce the chance of injury. But here we have Sophia Lauchley coming through 7th, last year's champion. She struggled pre-season with injury. Oh, it's nice to see her smiling, actually. I know she's felt a lot of pressure this year, and as she said in the press conference, of having to adjust her goals. And this is one of the challenges with being multi-sport. She's won a World Cup skiing race in cross-country this year, and has really struggled to transition to running. With the season starting earlier with the races in Kobe, it's just very hard to get right the balance with ski training and actually getting your legs ready for running the downhill of races like this. And coming through now from Switzerland, representing CABV Martigny, it's Aria Liassi. Aria Liassi. Her first top 10 in the Golden Trail as well. Great to see local runners able to come out representing Switzerland and to perform well. She will now be invited to the Golden Trail and have all expenses paid to either the race in Poland, or if she fancies a bit of a holiday, a trip to Tatra. And you can see in front of us our top 5 ladies.
« 3h10-46 pour Aurélien Liassi, Aurélien Berthollet également. »
And we expect to see, rounding off our top 10 shortly, Joyce DeGiroux. And this is our top 5. What a top 5. Who predicted that? Just to recap, in first place, Joylene Chepangino from Milimani Runners in Kenya. In second place, Scout Adkin from Kendal in Great Britain, representing Hoka EU. In third place, Madalena Faria, representing Salomon from Romania. In fourth place, Philaris Kisang from Run Together in Kenya. And in fifth place, Christina Simeon, representing Sinti Bacau, Romania. And coming through now, I believe this is actually, I'm not sure if this is one of our races or if this is a runner from early in the morning who's suddenly responding. They don't have an elite race number on them, so I'm not sure actually if they're in our series or if this is, in fact, this is like one of our runners. Could this be Caitlin Fielder, the Kiwi runner who's training for Ultra at the moment? She knew this wasn't her race. She's a very strong downhill finisher, and given how little downhill, only 600 meters versus 2,200 meters up, she's come in more for a training run. So actually, I think she'll be pretty happy with that. And hello to George, her boyfriend, if he's watching at home. So a top 10 for her. She'll definitely be happy, given that she's come here more to just get some good running in her legs. And we've missed coming through Julie Lelong for France in 9th place, representing Annecy Athleticism. But there's Caitlin Fielder. If you don't know Caitlin Fine Arts, go and look her up on Instagram. She paints cycling and running shoes as one of her side jobs. Fielder Fine Arts. They're beautiful. Her boyfriend cycles in the Tour de France, so a lot of the world's best cyclists have some incredible trainers and cycling shoes made from her. Absolutely beautiful. And if you've got 500 euros going spare, I'd recommend you get some for yourself. But boy, you've got to need to race well to justify such a work of art. So that's our top 10, ladies and gentlemen. What a race it's been. We'll hopefully get some confirmations here, but who predicted that? Joylene Chepangino winning her first ever race. Scout Aitken, her first ever Golden Trail race as well. And Christina Simeon from Romania, first top 5. And some races to look out for later in the season. Anna Gibson, her opening account for the Golden Trail. She'll be back in Poland next week at Tatra Sky, as she will for the rest of the series, as we head to America for Headlands 27K and Mammoth Lakes trail run. And confirmation of our men's, a new course record by a sweaty stomach. Kylian Jornet, 10 in a row. Unbelievable. Kudos to Josephat Kiprocic, fourth in his first ever European race. Sylvain Cachard coming in seventh with a stress fractured foot. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that. And Jonathan Castillo, another new name in our top 10. Great to see a mix of old and new, and it just shows how even though the levels of our sport keep on growing, there's still room for some more. So let's see our overall rankings. And as I've mentioned, top 4 races score. Patrick now up to third, having only run 3 races. Add another 200 for that. You know, he odds on to be our leader should he have a strong America. Some other notable, Killian comes in, 2 wins, up to 400 points. And no other significant changes. Potentially Roberto Di Lorenzo outscoring his first 4 points of the season. Actually, no, he won't have done. I don't think he was top 10. And in the women's, no changes in our top 9. I don't think, because of the, if we look at our top 10, not many have scored. But Joyce DeGiroux now into the top 10. She has 3 scoring races, and with Judith and Sophia not scoring well, the standings remain the same. But Judith and Madalena will be back, and we suspect Joylene may be convinced to come and join us, and hopefully Scout as well. We still have 3 races left. There's 600 points left to be won, and you can go into the title with your highest 4 scoring races. The final is in Switzerland. But let's look back at our highlights. As you can see, super hot from the start, 26-degree heat. And right from the off, Killian took it out, creating a gap. In our women's, we had Joylene and Scout also striding through the field. Behind then, our other runners were shuffling for paces. And it took some time, actually, for Killian to be caught before our surprise leader, Josephat Kiprotich, caught Killian, surprised everyone, and actually took the lead. Clearly a very, very strong climber. In the women's at this stage, Scout Aiken was in second place. Jolene Cepangino only 30 seconds behind. And behind them, there were trading places between Joyce, Madalena, and Sophia Lockley. But it wasn't until we came out at the top of our race at Ponchette that the battle began. Josephat took the lead, showing his fast flat speed. Locked in a back and forth with Killian. And Joylene just didn't look like slowing down. At this stage, Scout was beginning to tire, and indeed was caught by Joyce DeGiroux for only a kilometre or 2. Concerns being raised whether Scout had paced this race properly. And similar questions were being raised in the men's before Killian again was dropped by Josephat. But as we came into the last third of the race and the steepness of the climbs reduced, the true outcomes of our course became clearer. Climbing done, Killian took to the front and Josephat started to fade in the heat. But in the women's, Joylene wasn't suffering. It was actually the more experienced runner, Joyce DeGiroux, who was caught first by Scout Atkin and then by Madalena Faria. And our 2 Kenyan friends from Team Run Together. First, Patrick Kipagino overtook Josephat, then Philemon Kyriogo. But in the women's, the gaps kept on extending, and it wasn't until Philemon sensed the finish coming that he overtook a surprise Killian. The question would be, could he battle back? With a slight technical section, he gathered a lead, but it was the sprint finish that made the difference. And Kylian Jornet took the win. Less than a second ahead of his own highest ever ITRA score, breaking the course record to win for a 10th time. But Joyline Cepangino, her first ever race, grew stronger and stronger, growing the lead over Scout Adkin, who also was extending, now ahead of Madalena Fleury. Neither of them looked like getting caught. And Joyline just started to enjoy the descent into town. With less than 5k to go, the race already decided. And coming through for her first ever race, let alone her first ever race win. A tremendous performance from Joyline Cepangino. And Scout Adkin, the British runner in her first ever Golden Trail race, taking second place. A tremendous race from her. And Madalena Fleury finishing off our 1, 2, 3 with a second podium for her here in Sierre-Zinal. What a race it's been. This will go down in the history books to me as the greatest Sierre-Zinal of all time, and potentially the greatest trail race of all time. But let's see what the rest of our season has in store for us.